Good evening, everybody. I didn't manage my time well today, but I am really looking forward to doing some more Book of Hours. Let me just take a quick second here to get everything set up. I am also going to need to adjust my mic, so prepare for some mic sounds. Okay. Things kind of seem to be. It's funny. Things kind of seem to be. It's funny. Things kind of seem to be. Where are the sounds coming from? I hate this. Where are the sounds coming from? I hate this. Where are the sounds coming from? I hate this. Where are the sounds coming from? I hate this. All right. So, I feel really out of my depth at the new job. It is an incredibly interesting job. And I have no idea how one would even prepare for that without... Oh, this is interesting. Why isn't Book of Hours showing up? Let's try that again. But yeah, so I'm very happy to be at the new place. I am putting a lot of work in. And I'm finding like they're definitely very friendly, very gracious when I offer feedback. Really conscious of my time and making sure that I'm not spending my own time to work on things. I really could not ask for a better introduction to a new workplace. But I will say, like I think anybody who's kind of worked both very physically demanding jobs and mentally demanding jobs know that it is usually much more tiring to have sort of focused mental effort for extended periods of time. And I'm definitely starting to feel that. I'm also trying to get my bedtime sort of worked out properly. I did get quite a bit of sleep last night, which is good, but I think I'm still sort of behind for the week overall. I mean, actually, to be fair, I think I only got like an hour more than what I really really needed. So yeah, if I take a look at the times, yeah, I'm still net. I'm like down for the week. But anyways, I'm very happy I am where I am. But it's obviously a big change, both in terms of my overall schedule, my waking, my sleeping. There are a few of the side things I want to do that I notice I've been losing the plot on a little bit. But I think all of that will start to work itself out over time. So I wouldn't worry too much. I don't think I'd worry too much about it. But it does mean that I come to you today belatedly because I was trying to catch up on a bunch of the things that I wanted to do. And yeah, I just I made dinner, and it was something that took a long time to make. So probably should have thought that better, but it was all I had. So we are back to... So my original intention actually was to try and have this done this month. Now, maybe it is the last day of the month. Maybe we'll finish the game today. I'm not going to force it. We'll play the game at its own pace. But certainly, I would like to, if I can, put the time in to sort of finish. Now, did I already queue up? Looks like I already queued up everything I need to level up Great Signs and Great Scars. So I'm going to assume that that's happening, and we will move forward. So for those of you that maybe haven't been here for the last couple of streams, the plan has been to go through my... So the main thing we're waiting for right now is Numa. And while we are waiting for Numa, we have... Actually, sorry, just give me a second here. Excuse me. Hmm. Okay. Sorry about that. I just needed to get everything queued up. So yeah, the plan for the last little bit has been while we wait for Numa, which is sort of the last thing that I need to do. I've been going through my skills and just trying to fill in the gaps in terms of the different recipes. I don't think I've discovered anything new, although I've definitely found a couple new patterns in terms of just how to put things together. And it's not been the most creative way for me to handle it. Like, there have been a couple of times where I just sort of throw everything against the wall, which I always feel a little bad about. And the funny thing is that it doesn't always produce results that I'm convinced I wouldn't have found if I didn't spend the time to think about the skills. But one of the problems that I have is that if I go through all of the skills, then it winds up being, 1 or 2 streams where I don't really make any progress in terms of game time. It's just me sitting in a pause menu or on a paused screen trying out the different groups. So what I decided to do was do these sort of trios, and that'll basically allow me to make some progress on the day. We'll potentially see some new things. We'll get closer to Numa, and if Numa comes before we finish our investigations and the skills, well, that's fine, because we've done the best that we can. But the passage of time is also what gives me books and such, so that's one of the reasons why I split those things up. So I'm going to just focus on the current task. We are still talking with Reverend Timothy, 1, because it's a nice thing to do, and 2, because it's a nice little way to get some extra memories. But for the moment, because everything has sort of been going, once a season we wind up getting a new book, and then when it comes to seasons, if I can, it's nice to there's always the possibility that the event will go away and we'll run into somebody who can teach us a language. Basically, if I can, it's nice to be able to try and make some of these. I don't know, like, just try to make it so that we can read the last 2 books before Numa comes. But again, don't get too torn up about it if it doesn't turn out. That's basically the way that we're working right now. And I can sort of afford to speed things up a little bit in the game. I always feel a little weird doing that, but right now we're just waiting for some. We're just waiting for some memories to come up. All right, well, for those of you who are here for the reading, your time has come. The Morphe Codex, a priestess of the Sisterhood of the Knot, claims to have discerned the true meaning of the Thunderskin's birth. The writer credits the Red Grail, the Ringyu, and the Horned Axe, the powers the Sisterhood reveres, with agreeing a final treaty between the Hours of the House and the Hours they displaced. The Thunderskin loved the Yu, and the Grail destroyed him as restitution for the slaying of the Horned Axe's sisters and brothers. The Thunderskin entered the Mansis through the Peacock Door, a privilege never given to the Witch and Sister, but then their merit was much less. The writer admits that entry through the Peacock Door is unseemly, but insists that under the circumstances there was no other way. All right, Beguiling Melody. That's going to be for leveling up Great Signs and Great Scars. In fact, what we can do here, we can just hit collect now. On to 3 Flowers Hath the Tree. Ernestine Peterhans records her observations of the growths of trees and flowers around the Isle, and the omens and portents she attempts to draw from them, particularly the yew tree in Earl Brian's meadow, whose flowerings are sometimes eccentric. Ernestine observes, in the years when the tree flowers black, troubling secrets arise. When it flowers red, war and fires follow, and that no DeWolf heir has ever been born in a year when it flowers white. Ernestine attempts to use the tree's growths to advantage in her business affairs, but it fails. She's evidently very concerned when Hendrik de Wolf's grandson Giles runs off with the pale trollop Hafren in a year when the tree flowers white. She begins to fear that she has entirely misinterpreted all the relevant omens. She is deeply concerned for the continuation of the de Wolf line and prays for Giles' return. We have got the great grand passage of the hours, the Livian Burzgash Gazetteer of the patterns and rhythms of the hours' progress through the Mansis, from Concursum to Mallory, Mallory to Wood. Each century in the Mansis is a great feasting hall. In each 99th year, the hall falls silent. The elegist sits alone at the feast. There are paths in the Mansis that only the sun has walked. In the time of the sun's division comes, who will know them? When the second dawn comes, who will walk them? Just give me 1 second here. Just 1 more second, please. Okay. The Larkabine Codex. Christopher Larkabus claimed to have purchased 2 handwritten copies of this codex from a family of witches on the shores of the Sea of Marmara. A third was given to the sea. The sister and witch came from the west, where they were born in 2 wombs, one a princess, one a monster. Nevertheless, they loved each other from birth and met in secret to seek union. When the great drought came, the kings of that dry land tried to sacrifice the princess and the witch, so they sailed across the sea. When despair took them, they flung themselves into the drowning waters, and so found the Painted River, where they entered the Mansis through the offices of the Red Grail. Nevertheless, the Codex ends with a condemnation of the Grail. I keep wanting to say commendation of the Grail, but then the nevertheless doesn't make sense. All right, Callicite Supplications, prayers addressed to the Red Grail by the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot. If we should remember not, let our children remember in their redmost dreams. One prayer describes how sufficient Grail aspect can be used with Tridesma Hyra. It writes to give life, a little little life, to a doll twisted from fabric. And there should be one more. Oh, we didn't use Nona's desk. Oh, that's right, we used the phonograph. An investigation of a foundered country, subtitled Recordings from the Atlantic Coast. The phonograph initially seems to consist entirely of wave sounds and the cries of gulls, but attention to the cries suggests they are not gulls at all, perhaps not even birds. The bird cries resolve to possibly human voices, half lost in the sound of waves. They lament the absence of a city unborn. They hymn the ice behind the wave, the amber cobbles, or perhaps amber corals. The tenor of their song is melancholy, but also increasingly menacing, as they promise the city irresistible. As the voices fade, distant bells are clearly to be heard among the surf sounds. Okay, let's get the upgrade done. At last I approach mastery, improve the skill to level 8. Now, one of the drawbacks that I was talking about yesterday is that I may not be able to do much in terms of the three skills that I was working on Monday. So I think Lockworks and Lockworks and Clockworks I think has a sky aspect, so I could mess around with the. Oh, wait a minute! I remember now. I also was making a chimeric larva. I don't need to listen to everything Reverend Timothy says. He doesn't even really expect me to, but I'm often glad when I do. So you know what? I think we're just going to spend the rest of the day making some money. The skill is now level 8. Its power aspects have also increased. But yeah, so this is one of the things that I was kind of trying to avoid, is that I think there's a lot of interesting things to look at and do in the game, and maybe following up on, you know, the story of Harry's and Van Loren. The thing is that I think I've kind of already gone as far as I can with that in terms of the conversation, or in terms of the investigations. But yeah, just being able to I don't know, do a little bit more than just sort of fast forward through the day so that I can get the next batch of things done. I suppose the only difference here, though, is that, like here I have a fairly good reason, because I know there are things I want to do with the elements of the soul, and it's really just a question of getting everything done on time. So in the case of the chimeric larva, for instance, until we get that, I can't necessarily make the progress that I was looking for. There's not much work on offer in Braunkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. Night has fallen, dawn will come soon. I wonder if I'll have... I'm probably not going to get my element of the soul back in time then. That'll be a little awkward, but we can earn it back at the Sweet Bones. And actually, I'm kind of glad that I stopped to think about that, because I should also rest on the old moment. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream of the day's doings. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done, and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Yeah, so we're a few seconds short on the larva, but that's fine, because I'll be able to run a couple of alternatives. Let's get some order here, though. Right, this is the tryst. So we'll get the Wisp to bring in Reverend Timothy, and then we'll take it from there. Reverend Timothy always jumps at the offer of my company. New life! Alright, now... Wait, what? Few of these have been seen in the world under this sun. That is not... I mean, I am always happy to have a living relic, but that is absolutely not what that was supposed to make. Now, I do notice an absence of a skill, so I wonder if something happened. But this is a real drag. Because I got to remember now how I can even get this thing. All right, let's take the Tryst +1. Cured, good to see you. Can't stick around tonight, but I hope you have a good stream. I'm late in starting anyway, so as always, I am delighted to... I'm always delighted to have you stop by. Thank you for stopping by, and we will catch up soon, I suspect. I will do my best to... I'll do my best to... start on time for Friday. I know you said that you were looking forward to stopping by then. Actually, you know what? I don't even need to get that clever about this. So I could try and restore the I could try to restore the Tryst, but I don't need to, because if I go for Tryst +1. Oh, but you know what? I need to get another egg. I know I've got a couple kicking around here, but you know what? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to bring back the big Tryst at the Sweet Bones. even busier this week, but I still appreciate it. Like, here's the thing, right? Like, um, there is a like one of the challenges in terms of broadcasting is that there is a very reasonable case for broadcasters to make in terms of, like the free entertainment and, sometimes, and this is definitely not you. I don't even think you're taking it that way, but just so we can be clear, especially if people are hearing this without seeing the chat. There are definitely some people who can become very demanding when they don't necessarily contribute things. In fact, it's very often, I've seen this more as a moderator rather than my own chat, but there's definitely the people who, the broadcaster is kind of always a little disappointed whenever they show up, and they're always the people who make the most in terms of demands and like don't offer anything. So that's usually the one. But the drawback is that if you go out and say that, that usually causes more problems than it solves, and for understandable reasons, right? Like if I go and I get a van and like put an espresso machine in the back and offer people free coffee, and then get mad when they refuse it and go to pay for coffee in another shop, I am the weirdo, right? I am absolutely not doing anyone favors by giving them coffee that they don't want. And likewise, that's kind of why people, I think, are put off whenever broadcasters talk about, the free entertainment thing. But the reason why I'm saying that is that I do kind of feel like there's sort of a 50-50 to this, right? Where it's like, I have chosen to broadcast, and I have chosen to create something of an expectation that I will be broadcasting on a regular basis in terms of like the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And obviously, I give myself a little more drift than is probably appropriate for the the start time. But it's basically how I can make this stuff work. But I don't really feel like so the thing is that I appreciate it when you say stuff like, don't stress, you're a busy man. But on the other hand, right, like if I say I'm going to do something, I should do that, and I should follow through on it, and I should be held accountable, at least to myself. Obviously if somebody comes in and is like, well, you didn't start on time, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. It's like, okay, well, for that, there's obviously a certain... There's a limit in terms of what people can say to broadcasters, I think. But yeah, no, I do feel a certain, particularly for people who are as pleasant as you coming into the channel, I do sort of feel like if I know there is an opportunity to make someone smile, I should take the time to do that. I hate for people to hate because they lack joy. Yeah, for sure. And likewise, there's also the hope. My hope is where I can to, and I realize I don't always live up to this, but where I can, the hope is to be, a net positive, to bring good things rather than bad. On the library note, actually, I got a very nice note from my Old Works library that thanked me for a letter that I wrote their director, and apparently I caused a couple of librarians to cry, which was not obviously not the intended effect, but yeah, no, it's where I can, the hope is to do the nice things more than the not nice things. Offer this beast my company. Who knows? Perhaps it will offer something in return. Now, given that we're going to be waiting a minute for the tryst anyway, I think it makes a lot of sense that I get a Newman with Moon. So anyways, Kieran, the easy way for me to put this is, I don't feel obligated other than my own expectations and hope to merit the attention of someone like yourself who is also busy, and I happen to know will be available on Friday. So I will do my best to start at a proper time and give you a good show. My God, this guy. I don't speaking of times where I fall short. I'm pretty sure some of my neighbor. Actually, I don't even think my neighbors have had a kid. I just think a couple with a new kid have come in. This kid does not shut up. It is really, really challenging sometimes, especially when I hear it through the headphones. But what are you gonna do, right? Like it's a child. Obviously, the child doesn't know what's going on. So, yeah, no worries, Kieran. Take care. Have a good day at work or night at work. Sorry, I should be careful of my terms. But no, I do appreciate you stopping by. I always do. Like I know you often are seeing me on breaks and stuff like that, and it does actually mean something that you take the time each time to do that. So it's never taken for granted. Have a good day at work, and thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think loopholes gives me moon. So now that I'm gonna have to get another Newman after doing this, but I don't think that's a bad use of the time, especially given that I need 10 moon to work with. So, sorry. There's got to be some more yawns on the stream until I get a good weekend in to catch up on all my sleep. And this is the crack track one. Okay, so we're getting grapes, an egg. We are recovering the tryst. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. All right, we are ready to make things happen today. So I think well, I say we're ready to make things happen. I am going to wait until a little bit later in the day before I start trying to work with Lockworks and Clockworks, transformations and liberations and insects and nectars. And this is just because I probably don't want to wait the whole second day for the chimeric larva, although maybe I'll have to. But as far as the rest is concerned, I figure... Actually, maybe I just move to another group of 3. But what I was hoping to do is just sort of be able to pick up some memories from Reverend Timothy, and obviously that can only happen later in the day. So what I'll maybe do is I'll skip over this cluster here, and then we'll go... Inks of Power is not going to be an easy one, but Inks of Power, Sky Stories, and Spices and Savors, and then we can move back to the previous block. And now it suggests a meal would be welcome. Cluck. Cluck? I'm sure most people have noticed this, but this is quite different from Terrence, who may or may not be named after the housekeeper, but the cluck question mark is not a Terrence response. Terrence is a little bit more clear on their feelings on the matter. Alright, feed the beastie. Satisfy this creature's appetite. Food will make a hungry beast or a wild one cooperative. Serpent root, a mass of rootstock, shiny with age, but still somehow viable. Tiny spidery scratchings marked with embedded eggshell shards encode a cryptic message. Seaborn, tide-drawn, Meniscate sister, witch lover. The House of the Moon will always have its messenger, though its messenger is different each time, in eye and flesh and heart. Feats, fights, posterns, loopholes set down against the advent of eternity by powers favoring imperfection and impermanence. Alright, so there's the loophole. So what I'm hoping to do here is use this to produce a chimeric larva. So we tried to do this last time, and it may be that I either failed or something kicked out the memory that was required. So we used Tryst Plus with loopholes. That's enough. That's actually more than enough. Okay, chimeric larva. Beneath the auspices of dusk, hatch an eyeless larva pulsing with moth potential. Insects and nectars with scholar level moon plus an egg creates chimeric larva. And that only takes 90 seconds. Okay, so actually we will be able to do this later in the day after all. I'm kind of happy about that because I'd rather not have to remember the order of the things that I left back there. So let's think for a minute here. So I'm gonna need Nock, Sky, Forge, Moth, I think, and Moon and Nectar, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So at least as far as the whist is concerned, I should be able to use that to either read books or earn some money. So we'll earn a bit of money at the Sweet Bones, and then I will read... I suppose there's a reasonable question at this point. What other books should I be reading? I guess it depends if I think I know what the aspects I'm going to need will be. I'm gonna just go for the Sun's Design for a start, but I might be switching out Newman as the... I don't know, I'll probably be switching out Newman as the... You know, as my subset of skills that I'm going to be playing around with Narrows. Okay, a bunch of grapes, a juicy blush purple. Let's wait. I think we can afford to wait the minute. We're not going to have as much that we can do. I think I'll also be able to use another Faust. I can't think of a situation where I'd be able to use 3 elements of the soul, but 2 I think we can work with. Alright, an afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. With letters I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There is no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. A full belly makes a helpful friend. This beastie is now inclined to cooperate, so we can talk with Reverend Timothy. And the Sun's Design, a scorched slab of black corundum, minutely scratched on every side with intricate ideoglyphs. In the city of Amisa, beneath the Church of the Holy Belt, in a sarcophagus of black corundum, Elagabalus lies, accursed of accursed of Janus, neither long nor mortal, neither man nor woman, neither a liar nor a speaker of truth, neither real nor imagined. On his light suffused skin is made manifest the sun and splendor's grand design. Elagabalus is the source of one half of this text. The source of the other half is obscure, but its power is evident. It is impossible to be certain if the sun really planned for us to enter eternity. It is impossible to be sure if the Grail, the Vagabond, and the Forge stole this birthright from us or saved us from it. But there is a great secret here. The paths of the sun has charted his paths beyond walls and woods and bounds. When the sun lights our way, when we are ready, all of us will enter eternity, at least in the right history. Okay. So again, the catalyst for all of the actions that we're going to take will be the arrival of the chimeric larva. And really, that's just so I can test something with transformations and liberations. But to be completely honest, if it's a matter of level 10 and level 15 memories, we should either have them in the inventory or just we're not going to find them other ways. Oh, you know what? If I was thinking, I would have gotten the loopholes Newman again so that I could make the Wormwood Dream. Might not be too late, but I suspect I would need to give up something with Moon for that. All right. Approaching the Chrysalis Crossroads. I don't think I can keep them in the garden here, but I actually can't remember where I kept... I thought I kept the fully developed one. Hang on. There we go. All right. So yeah, you know what? Before I go too far down the path, I am a little curious to see if I can make this work. So if we take Edict's Marshal, so we need a memory and we need... Actually, we only need 2 more Moon. So the easy answer there... Arab is actually the right call here, so I could give up the Fet, but the Fet gives me Moth, and Moth is something that I use in transformations and liberations. But if I go for a Confounding Parable, we'll do the old-fashioned 108 for that. I know Reverend Timothy won't make that, so... Okay, so let's... Yeah, we'll run down the clock for a little bit longer. I'll be up the memory from Reverend Timothy, at least. No, hang on. Well, we might as well get the memory from Timothy, but I can't do that because if I use the Tryst here, then I wouldn't be able to do the transformation stuff. So we're going to work with Lockworks and Clockworks, which admittedly we've already put a bit of effort in already. And then transformations and liberations, and finally insects and nectars. So let's start with Lockworks and Clockworks just because I'm not expecting miracles in terms of... Like, it's not like I sort of had to think about Book of Hours while we were away and suddenly realized, aha, this is the answer. So we'll still try the Shrine to St. Januarius. That sort of seems to be the best lead I've got. Okay, actually, sorry, I'm mistaken in that because we've actually tried everything with Sky. So either there's a different Sky recipe that I haven't tried yet, or it is a second knock, or it's something completely unrelated to knock. Now, we can still put knock things in here, so I'm happy to do that. Now, unfortunately, we've tried all of the knock things as well. Well, that puts me in a bind. So I suppose the last that I would look at, so the Little Way of Little Machines, I can see that perhaps Forge might make sense here. I'm completely unequipped to be able to do Forge stuff, though. Well, we've got Paths of the Sun with us, so... let's... I think actually the alchemy set makes a little more sense. It would make sense if I could add Lockworks and Clockworks. Alright, Forge it is. Wow, I've really got my work cut out for me here. So we'll start with the iotic essence. Well, that's at least bringing us up to 14. And bitter black salts is actually a really good one. Now, of course, it doesn't let me. Shucks. Well, yeah, well then I can't add that in the alchemy set. Okay. Yeah, it really just wants metal here. I mean, I can put other things. I guess I can put the stone in this case. Not this stone, though. All right, well, that's my 15 forge, but man, that is going to be quite the challenge. In fact, I'm not going to lie, I'm really not sure how I would even be able to test the other stuff here. So let's see if the orichalcum wire gives me anything I can go on, but to be completely honest, I don't really think I have what it takes to fully test the forge side of this. Where's the closet? There we go. Yeah, I think I need to bring a little bit more than just a hunch here. I mean, there's a certain logic behind the orichalcum, for sure. Well, hang on. We can still put other liquids here. So I wonder if I can put the... No, I can't, because it has to be fuel. But I bet I could add the xanthotic essence now. Okay. So yeah, it would have to be the bitter black salts if it was anything. You know, okay, the more I'm thinking of this, the more I think... So we got the Great Clock, and we've got Lockworks and Clockworks. Perhaps I should be thinking a little bit more about what I can specifically do here. Well, let's not lose our head. Let's still go for 4. Well, okay, but this is interesting, right? Because I can only do Elements of the Soul and Omens. And of the omens, well, we do have the Curious... Well, okay, hang on. So if we add the Curious Hunch... and I add the Shaft. Okay, so clearly it's not the Curious Hunch on its own. Named a riddle is something that I don't have to test here. It'd be weird if it was the Horizon site, but... Huh. I mean, I suppose there's a possibility it's Curious Hunch with Sky. Need a little more, but yeah, okay. So if I go down this path, the only other candidate that would follow this would be Winter. And again, I'm really grasping at straws here, but it is Clocks and Clocks. So... the best I've really got here would be a Bittersweet Certainty, and I don't think that's ever been used as an input to Winter. Okay. I'm willing to set aside Lockworks and Clockworks for separate consideration, let's say. Transformations and Liberations, though, I'm hoping doesn't involve too much of a challenge. So one of the first things I want to try is Transformations and Liberations, Tryst. I think we only... Yeah, so we only really are trying to get that level 15, and I am almost certain that if I add the chimeric larva and then anything with 2 or more, there you go, the perilous imago, which we've already made, coax the larva to develop into a greater moth beast. So we already have one, but I can't knock this one off the list. This is essentially why I spend so much time on this is why I spend so much time on this thing. Oop. All right, where's my notes? So, insects and nectars. Now, I'm not expecting miracles here, but hopefully this is also another straightforward one for us. So, let's start. We'll add the health for the nectar. No, maybe not. Okay, so we've got moth, we've got we've got moon, and we've got nectar. It may be that there is an argument to be made that we basically just need to do the same thing with the chimeric larva. So let's maybe try that first. I'm a little worried that I don't have the moon that I need. Calm down. Okay, I gotta somehow find 5 moon. Let's go for the highest level moon that I've got in the collection so far, which is not much. In fact, the old wound might be, yeah. This is why I really should have got the word. Sorry, Forbidden Epic is also a good one. So, now I can add the Eigengrau. Get the chimeric larva drunk. That's really all you need. Yeah. No, hang on. We already did the perilous imago. Maybe I should read my text first. Okay. Yeah. So in that case, so Lethe is used to make Maricat. So at this point, I'm really short. I actually would have imagined that maybe we had some kind of honey thing with insects and nectars. I'll try it just so I can eliminate the possibility, but I'm not feeling too good about my chances. Okay. Yeah, so we go through the nectar list and see what we can find. Okay, so mysteriously, I've got Glassfinger Toxin, Ascendant Harmony, Mazarine Fife, and Beverage. This is silly. Like, none of this stuff is going to do what I want it to do. In fact, it makes it even more complicated because I somehow need to make all this balance out. Okay, well, here's what I can do. We can take the Sacrament Malachite. That gets me up to 16 no matter what. So, actually, you know what? There are easier ways for me to mess with the nectar side of this. Yeah, so we'll take the Ascendant Harmony or the Glassfinger Toxin. Can't feed Glassfinger Toxin to the animals. Valentine won't allow it. Okay, so let's do insects and nectars. Why on earth are these? I'm not gonna lie, I am very confused as to why I have certain entries on that list. I don't think the Ascendant Harmony still works here. Nazarene Fife isn't an option. And beverage kind of is an option, but we already know what happens if we add leafy. So I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I mean, we make a leafy. Okay, so the Mazarine Fife isn't actually that hard for me to work out. I just need to find a desk with nectar. So I think between the Hive's Lament, our high health, and insects and nectars. So we just need to add one more nectar. Actually, one more nectar might be a problem. I need to remember if... Okay, Choir of Paper does... Man, that is an interesting possibility. I wonder... Okay, I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna tilt at the windmill again, even though I have doubts that it's this simple. Well, this doesn't really allow for nectar, though. Well, let's not question it. And I guess I technically should be adding an ink here. Yeah. And if I go for something simpler like Parabate... Well, Parabate wouldn't be... Ugal is what I'm looking for. If I have it, probably don't. I keep making Parabate by mistake. That's why I have so much of it. How much do I want to search for this, I guess is the question. Because I keep saying, no, I'm not going to search for this thing anymore. I keep wasting time on it, and what do I keep doing? I keep coming up with new excuses to try increasingly desperate attempts to... Yeah, it's all Stargall. I mean, maybe that's something that I can make before the end of the day is a new Ugal ink. Okay, so I'm going to double check the moon, but... Yeah, flour, beverage, Solomon's preparation. At least with the egg we know. I mean, like I said, it doesn't hurt to try this stuff. It doesn't hurt to eliminate it from the list of possibilities, but I just don't see this stuff really moving the needle when it comes to the things that I need. Forbidden Epic ought to do the trick. I'm still short, but... let's start with Solomon's preparation, because that's if anything's going to make it, it would be this. So under substance. Now the good news is we can put the black sapphire wash in. So really the last one for me to try is a flower, which I can't do here. Well, that complicates things, actually. I guess we would go to the Hall of Voices. I can't remember if... Okay, Okay, Cat's Claw, Lenten Rose. Nope, it's all Moth Orchid. Nope, even Moth Orchid. Okay, maybe there are no moonflowers. That makes it even more exciting. Well, Sea Holly will do. Okay, so I'd love to try something. Okay, well, no, that's 15, so all right, so if I've tried everything but Ascendant Harmony with the nectars. So with Ascendant Harmony, I need to find... Oh, Lord. Okay, I can't actually sort of try it. Yeah, let's eliminate the possibility. So if we go Health, Insects and Nectars, Ascendant Harmony... So the problem here, I can add the one, the Choir of Paper. But the secret weapon on this is so incredibly dumb that I'm trying this, is the Meerkat. What do you know? It doesn't make any sense at all to try Ascendant Harmony with Insects and Nectars. I really want to know how that wound up on the nectar sheet. Like, I'm not going to mess with it because I already have stuff written down, but that is a very, very curious set of priorities that I've got there. All right, let's focus on one of the better things I can do for future future moon investigations, and that would be to make a Wormwood Dream. Right, I was working on the Confounding Parable, which I don't have yet. Okay, but like I said, I don't want to spend the entire stream looking at one batch of... I don't want to look at like just one batch of... sorry, I don't want to look at every skill. Doing them, you know, batch by batch and sort of invoking some kind of closure is the whole point to this. So we will earn some money while we work out the rest of the day. There's not much on offer on Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. And again, I am expecting that when I properly focus down on what I can do with the remainder, some of the answers will probably just sort of jump out at me. This is a little bit more about clearing out the things that I probably should have gotten by now. But again, however I wind up getting it, it's something I think to me this seems like a decent way to let the time go by without kind of completely abandoning any hope of completing the game. So for the rest of it, we're gonna make some money, and we will preserve the old moment and move on to the next day, where we have some equal fun with Inks of Power. When I say equal fun, I mean I suspect I am going to have no idea what I want to put in there. I don't need to listen to everything Reverend Timothy says. He doesn't even really expect me to, but I am often glad when I do. Let's hope it is equally possible to forget this again. Wormwood Dream: if there are laws which apply only in Dream, then it must also be that there are crimes which can only be committed there. Alright, let's see what the day brings. We will, as always, bring in Reverend Timothy, and I think in this case it probably makes sense for me, so it's hard for me to try and think about when I really need the extra memories. I think in this case we're just gonna go for it for the memories, or for the skills. I mean, okay, Inks of Power. So there isn't a great way to do this. Like I think I just kind of have to grit my teeth and be done with it. The Noctonary. Noctonary doesn't... Yeah, so finding a scale place that'll let me do some of the inky stuff. Maybe the Chrysalids is the... Well, let's start. Gives me... So I've got scale to work with. So we've got Salt Sign Parabate, Stargall Ink, Ugal Ink, Ichor Auroral, Perinculate, Porphyrin. Okay, so surely there is a 15... Okay, Serpent Milk. Surely I should be able to make Serpent Milk. No! Okay, interesting. I should do this. This is a big... The scale sheet has got a whole lot of empty slots in it, so... First thing I need to do is actually wait for the Old Moment, because Old Moment is a slot that hasn't been filled in yet. Okay, Inks of Power. I just need to find another 3. I could add the Earthquake name, but yeah, doesn't seem to have done anything here, so fair enough. The Living Relic is not something I was expecting, so let's leave that aside. Houndskull I can add. Actually, that one should be more likely out of any of these. Okay, maybe not. I don't know about an egg. Well, clearly the Earthquake name doesn't do anything. Oh, Parabate. No, I haven't tried. We know with Perinculate, sorry, we know we can make Perinculate, and I did try adding this before, but I just wanted to double check because that was on the list. Now all of these count as liquid, so that's also off the list. So our last option is the Savage Hymn, which we don't have. We could try the Hive's Lament, I suppose, but that doesn't give us scale. Well, isn't that interesting? Well, let's tidy up the last of the... Actually, you know what? Before I do that... let's do Hive's Lament... Maricat, because I can. Yeah, thought so. Alright, well there's at least one. Actually, hang on. So if we did something with Stargall, this would be absolutely nuts. If... Well... signs are kind of pointing to it, so I wonder if I were to go for Sky or Lantern, if I could get it to make Ashertine. Oh god, I can't remember what's required for Ashertine, though. Okay, well, fortunately, I didn't write it down in the spreadsheet, but I remembered, and I believe it was Ichor Vitreous. Now, I've not done myself any favors here. So the Dijumos has got to come in. Yeah. Okay, so Sky combination doesn't work, but maybe Lantern will. Now where do I get... Well, I only need one more Lantern, so even the old moment. Interesting. Okay. So we've already tried with Porphyr. I mean, we'll try with Porphyrine again, because there's no rule saying it can't be. Surely Orpiment Exultant would be... Orpiment Exultant... Oh yeah, hang on. I would need to bring Forge for that. If I'm thinking of Inks of Power, surely it's Orpiment Exultant, and that should have been the first one that I tried. But... Oh, but it doesn't take metal. Okay. Good lord, they really don't make it easy, do they? The Forge, maybe. How the hell do I make this work? Any metal will do. Yeah, there we go. That one, okay. I should be embarrassed. Like, there's a number of these that I should be embarrassed about, but the fact that the last thing that I tried, now admittedly the last thing I tried was always going to be the one that worked, but the fact that I did not think immediately on seeing Inks of Power, Orpiment Exultant, the Forging, the ink described as the Incastum Terminale of the fourth history. It's the incandescent orange of Forge. One ingredient, it's been, as it were, long rumored, is the blood of candescence. Certain Masonic and other related traditions venerate what they call OE. I'm not entirely sure what doesn't scream Ink of Power to me, but we got it, and that's what matters. Okay, on to Sky Stories. That is a presumably Sky and Rose. Yeah. I keep forgetting that there is no Rose to this component. In fact, the Nocturnary doesn't have Rose either, does it? Yeah. I think I usually need to rely on the solar stuff. Okay. Do I make sense of this? Well, you know what? We don't need to get fancy. Let's maybe just focus on something that'll accept Sky. Actually, yeah, it's the altars that are really going to make this happen. So, Sky Stories. First thing I need to see is just what am I dealing with? Like, what am I... Okay, so this should definitely be something we try with Fet. Now, this seems pretty straightforward here. Like, we've got an Enduring Reflection, so one of the first things I would want to try here is just combining... yeah, okay, well, all in a day's work, really. And Spices and Savors. Now, this one could get a little weird. But let's do our best. So Alchemy is probably the best bet for messing with Forge, but I would not be surprised if this winds up having some powerful Grail component to it. Anyway, let's start with the forge. Paths of the Sun is my better option here. Now, I guess if I'm getting an iotic essence to begin with, maybe we try that. Okay, no surprise that that doesn't turn out. We'll try the xanthotic essence just for completeness. So then we go to our other forge works. That is a weak list I'm working with. All right. So one of the first ones I'll try is orichalcum wire, and that's mostly because I didn't have it for the longest time, and it is possible to make Azoth out of that, I believe. Okay. Bitter black salt, and I think that would actually exhaust the list that I currently have. Okay. Now there is no rule saying that it has to have a forge thing at the end. It could be double nectar. Could also be something entirely different. But let's try the nectar side before we commit too far. That might be one I'm even willing to leave to the second pass. Okay, so let's get this up to... In fact, one of the first things I'll do, maybe add the lethe. Okay, not a surprise there. Actually, have I tried the honey? Although I guess it would be moth with the honey. I might try a mothy thing. Again, the absolutely ridiculous suggestion of glassfinger toxin. I can do it. I need to find a flower for it. This one's got nectar. What was I trying? Glassfinger, right. I'm not trying the Ascendant Harmony. Like, if I can find an easy way of adding the Ascendant Harmony, I'll do it. But, like, this is beyond silly. Like, now wood might be an interesting attempt. Oh yeah, well here it is. I think we already tried a beverage with a lethe. I'm pretty sure we already tried. Yeah, I'll do it just for the sake of verification, but yeah. So unless I try the Mazarine Fife and the Ascendant Harmony, I mean, if they are the one that cracks it open, I'm okay saying I was bested by that one. That is a very well hidden. That is a very well hidden challenge if it really comes down to that. Okay, we don't have a lot of moth with these things. Curious Hunch might give me a little more. Yeah, okay. So, it's a little silly for me to use a Skin Shuck Mead to try and make a Skin Shuck Mead, but actually, how much you want to bet I can't do that? Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. I think we need to rely on kitchen stuff. But there's no moth or... Well, we can make do. So we're down the curious hunch, sadly. Holy hell. Okay. I actually think we wouldn't even be able to make the even if we add the skin shuck meat, I think we're one short. Yeah, so I need 3 moth. Well, okay, cuckoo honey. That was worth a try. The problem here is that I just don't see how I can test it with normal honey. Right, where does the other 2 moth come from? Well, now that I think of it, there might actually be a way around that. I might still be coming up short, but we'll see. Oh no, because well, hang on. No, let's not count it out yet. So if we go spices and save. Oh, right, because I can't add spices and savers. Wait, why not? That's interesting. Oh, I think I know why. It's because this has the old... I gotta craft something in this. Okay. That's not the end of the world. I'll just make something simple. In fact, I can probably make a Yugal ink. Well, I can make a Yugal ink as long as I'm willing to give up some... some things I'm not really ready to give up. Damn it. Okay. Earth sign is not the end of the world to give up. I will then use the... Yes, I will use the Tryst to read Wrapped in the King again. Or this'll do. Reverend Timothy always jumps at the offer of my company. I should maybe try and make a name day riddle, too. Maybe we'll do that at the very end. I forgot we were basically at the start of the day. I don't know, though. I mean, we did get to knock down 2 of the 3 that we did today. That's not a terrible spot to be in. I don't need to listen to everything Reverend Timothy says. He doesn't even really expect me to, but I'm often glad when I do. Okay. It's not the not the most important thing I've ever made, but you know what? I'm happy I have some spare Yugal ink. And this time I'm gonna cycle through the... So, like, chances are I am not going to need this... I'm not going to need to restore this. I'm probably going to have more elements of the soul than I really need to work with, but I figure it's probably not a bad idea for me to just get back into the cycle. Okay, so what was the plan here? Right, so I reset the chrysalis. So now it properly matches the... Now it properly matches the symbols, and we were going to try with moth. Maybe I was thinking about this the wrong way. Maybe I don't need to worry so much about the elements of the soul, and I just need to have the skin shuck mead plus one of the other. Because we can put more than one fluid. Okay, so that didn't turn out after all. I still think it was worth the... I think it was still worth a shot, but clearly it wasn't enough. I'm actually also a little surprised that the Hive's Lament is not producing something. Because I think the Hive's Lament is like one of those intermediate... Well, you know what? Maybe that idea of the Mazarine Fife isn't so crazy after all. So how the hell do I make this work? Okay, oddly enough, the Choir of Paper does the trick. Okay, shouldn't be surprised, but... And the Ascendant Harmony, oddly enough, can be added, but it wouldn't be sufficient for... Well, no, but you know it would be sufficient. Maricat. Okay. That is maybe the least surprising combination, Nectar and Ascendant Harmony. I'm just going to assume that I made a mistake somewhere writing this stuff down, but... so... I guess the other possibility would be Grail. Grail's not that hard to put together here, so... we would want a Ruby-Wise Ruin in that case. Now that's interesting. Why... Oh, because it's a desk. I think, oddly enough, the Chrysalis helps us again here. No, because it doesn't take Arab. But the Alchemist Glassware will. Okay. How do I think with portals on this one? So it did occur to me we don't have any Grail persistent memories, so that means I've either misunderstood what memories are available for Grail, or I've learned something about Grail. Then again, I can't really imagine Grail being, you know, a thing of permanence. Oh, well, there's Wind and Waiting. I mean, it's the memory I've got, right? Like... Alright, so Ruby-Wise Ruin is a must under the liquids, which actually puts us in a tough spot for the rest. So I need to somehow put together 4 Grail from one of these components. So we can probably say not happening with the flower. There might be some kind of material. You know, maybe it's better for me to try this at an altar. Because like fragrant chalice is nice and all, but it's not delivering the result that I need. Yeah, so you know what? Let's change it up. Let's go to the calcite altar. We will, again, employ the Arab. We have a memory slot, so we might as well use it, right? Oh, hang on. Does it even take... I don't think it takes spices and savors, so that was a short trip. Now, the important thing on these ones are that they don't take liquids. So that's also out. I am quickly running out of options here. Okay, pigments, elements of the soul. The liquid slot has to be filled with the Ruby Wise Ruin. It's the only keeper level recipe that I've got in the logs right now. So we're back to, do we have a 14 sub? Now there is actually a possibility. I don't think the Arab that we have here is going to do the trick. We're actually just one short on that. But the flushed Mommet might actually do the trick. I believe that is a device. That is quite a powerful... Okay, and again. Okay, so I'm willing to say... Oh, your mother, mom. That's good to hear. So this was added... I'm trying to remember the name of the update. So I don't know how recently you've played. Welcome to tonight's stream, by the way. But I'll just let you know if... I realize this isn't the most exciting way for me to find recipes, but we're pretty much close to the end, so I'm trying to draw out my time with Numa. But if you... So this should be in here sort of by default, but if you want, you can use the check to add and remove. So I actually used to hide it like this, but I will confess I've grown attached to it, mostly because... I don't know, it saves me from having to consult this. I mean, I still maintain the spreadsheet, not as well as I used to, but yeah, so if you have this game yourself and you haven't seen the craftable tab, this is probably the button you're looking for. Alright, I think I'm going to progress through the day. I could spend all day trying different combinations with spices and savors, but I think the better thing for me to do is move on to my other... trilogy. We only have 2 more of them, so I think we'll cross over into summer before I can complete that. But essentially what I will have is I'll have a subset of my sort of master list of skills that I wasn't sure of. And what I can do is I can maybe even just maintain a separate list of things that I'm going to try. So that one might even be, you know, what aspects have I tried with these recipes if I really get that desperate. But again, I imagine just having a much simpler list of the complicated ones to work with. And, you know, hopefully what that does too, so when I see things like glaziering and lightsmithing, right? Break a window, what have you made? A way, a new light, a weapon. Natalia Brulot. So this could suggest both the lantern and the sky from glaziering and lightsmithing, but the opening also implies knock, whereas the... you know, the discussion of weapons and actually the mere fact that Natalia Brulot is talking about it suggests that there may be an edge element to it. And some of the books also help with these suggestions as well, although I believe I did keep that Word document, and I think I have tried all of the combinations they've talked about. I know there were a couple where I felt underpowered, but those should be in the rear view. I might give them one last check just to make sure. I guess I don't really need to be talking with Reverend Timothy more, but Timothy likes to chat, and I like chatting with Timothy. We will speed things up, though, because for today, like I said, we'll do a trio a day, and then we will move on so that we can potentially get new books and also potentially get Numa. But like I said, I do also feel a little self-conscious about playing this way, just because it sort of implies that there's downtime, like the time in between is less meaningful. And I do personally think that the the time you spend in between can be filled with interesting things. I just also know that my tendency is such that I will pause and spend 3 hours going through the skills without any progress in the game. I guess I didn't need to really pause for Reverend Timothy, but... So that's the last we can do at the Sweet Bones. We might be able to chat with Reverend Timothy again, but the one thing I want to make sure I'm ready for is storing the old moment. I'm also kind of curious... Okay, so the start button doesn't actually become available. I didn't necessarily think it would, but it's nice to know, I guess. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. And it is a new day, so current affairs. What is happening in the world beyond Brandkrug? What visitors will the season bring? So, at the very least, we'll get another book. Doesn't look like it's Numa, but there's also the possibility that the visitors are exhausted, and if we wind up with someone who can teach us Kernwek Henevek, that actually means I'm ahead of things. Okay, so sunny day. We don't need to wait for the visitor, but I figure we'll at least get Reverend Timothy in. Reverend Timothy always jumps at the offer of my company. Reverend Timothy is always happy to chat. Okay, so let's take a look at what I had planned for today. So we're going to look at Stitchings and Bindings, Menescape Reflections, and Desires and Dissolutions. So I expect at least one of these I should finish. I suspect Desires and Dissolutions won't be a challenging one to finish off. Let's see what we've got with Surgeries and Exsanguinations. So to begin with, let's bring the core in. That's the higher level of heart. And apparently I missed... No, sorry, Stitchings and Bindings, not Surgeries and Exsanguinations. Still heart and sky. Okay. So I suppose... I'm gonna need to think about this. Well, let's bring up the heart tab. Okay, so Regensburg Bomb. I actually have almost nothing filled out for stitching and binding, so the first thing I should do is just try the basics, because it could be just a plain vanilla recipe that I just haven't done yet. I should have got a storm. This'll do the trick, but okay, so... Gideon Soaks is the next one. Now, Gideon Soaks would probably make sense given that Gideon was also known as the Cutter. That kid has not stopped crying since I complained about them last, by the way. When I say complain about it to you guys, obviously I'm not going to... I'm assuming the parents are already having a tough time putting up with that, but man. Now, I do have the Swaddled Thunder in the list, but I don't believe I've ever seen a keeper level result be an input into a recipe. I could be wrong on that, but I certainly don't remember. Well, we wouldn't even be able to put it in, so I'll try that later. Now, Cheerful Ditty and Thunderskin's Paean are not really here. Now, the other thing I'll say, too, is that it's also... Some of these don't really make a whole lot of sense as far as stitching and binding goes. So, like, the Swaddled Thunder sort of does, but, like, the Cheerful Ditty and the Thunderskin's Paean doesn't quite make the same sort of sense. I'll try the Parabate, but I'm not optimistic, let's say. We did try Fabric, which gave us the Frithweft, which of course got us the Swaddled Thunder. And then we tried a couple of liquids already. I mean, I suppose under Matter, I can... Well, this is a liquid, so that's that. So there are some other things that I can try in here. Maybe I will try the Thunderskin's Paean and the Cheerful Ditty and such. But let's see what the Sky combinations will do first. So that, I think we probably need to rely on the Shrine to Saint Januarius. And again, normally the skies as relate to heart, to me, has usually been something related to music, but we're going to systematically go through these things. It's the only, to me, it's the only sensible way to go about it. Actually, you know what? Looks like we've got a lot of sky to throw here, so... Now, unfortunately, it looks like we've tried most of this stuff, too. So it's Metal, Liquid... Xanthotic Essence and Ichor Vitreous. Or Ichor Vitreous might be a possibility. So we can just add another Faust to cross us over. Okay, fair enough. So I'll just kind of go road application of the spreadsheet. Essentially, unless the metal winds up changing something here, it's... And we can't actually add a metal in this spot, so... Where would I add a metal? So I don't think I could add it to the glass... So I could add a metal to the Alchemist Glassware, but I couldn't add stitching and binding. The Shrine to Saint Januarius is really the thing that would make this work. Might be a workbench, actually. Yeah, weirdly enough, this takes stone rather than... Like, there's ductile, but I don't think ductile is going to do what I want it to do. Oh, that's a pain. Okay. I actually don't recall if any of these workbenches take metal. I think it's just the forge now. It used to be that these things would take anything, but I don't know if there was ever a release version of the game that did that. The Condignator doesn't have sky or heart. Also doesn't accept metal, but... Maybe the clock? Bells presumably won't. Yeah. Okay, so I mean there's the open question as to whether or not it's even possible to connect metal to the... to sky in the first place. They're not exactly natural... they're not exactly a natural combination. Maybe I just say we put that on the too hard pile again. I feel like I'm kind of giving up a little early, but what exactly am I... what kind of breakthrough am I exactly expecting here? Well, the Thunderskin... Okay. I'm going to have it try and have it both ways. So if I go to the drum, I can't mess with the core. If I use drums and dances with a health, so we'll wait the 90 seconds before I do away with the big core. But let's see what Menescate Reflections offers us. So we can probably do that at the shrine too. Actually, the Alchemist set would make more sense. Doesn't allow for edge, but we'll worry about that later. So as usual, we'll just... Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Let's try the edgy stuff first. Of course. Sacre bleu. So there's a possibility... Well, okay, hang on. Let's see what the edge stuff is taking. Interestingly enough, the only thing I haven't tried with edge is Ichor Auroral, and I think that was probably based on a misunderstanding, so... I'm thinking I need to update my edge sheet, because there's definitely other stuff that I should be trying, I feel. Forbidden Epic is the better one. Oh yeah, I haven't made an Invincible Audacity. That was another edge memory I should have been trying. We will deal with that later. Okay, so we've got a recipe for a winning move. Now I still need to add more edge. Steel would normally be the answer here. Good lord. Okay. I actually do need to find a source of edge to put in here. I don't think any of the stone helps. So I kept the copper, but what I actually need is steel. Darn. The Deerde lens has an edge. That's what I get for assuming. Okay, so under fuel, it'll be weird if the Ichor Auroral works, but it wouldn't be completely out of nowhere. All right. So technically that is it for things I haven't tried on the edge side. Now there really is no rule saying that it has to all be edge and forge stuff. In fact, one of the things that could happen, and I'll maybe give it a try just so I can eliminate it as a possibility, we could have Sky or Lantern and wind up with some sort of Ashertine case. So I will give that a try just to eliminate that as a possibility. We'll try Lantern first. This is going to get interesting. So under substances, how do I bring the rest of the Lantern in? Maybe history plant? Okay, worth a shot. So then we want to do the same thing with Sky. Didumos should take us there. So what's my brilliant plan for generating... yeah. I gotta do this at an altar where I can put another memory. There's no way I'm getting enough Sky for that. Okay, so Didumos and the Wind and Waiting on it. Nope. It's gotta be an omen. They all have to be omens, don't they? Yep. It's either or. Okay. Ah, but I'm forgetting the Ichor Auroral is a pigment. No, I'm not. It's the same for all three. None of them could take liquids. That was all in my head. Okay. So my second best in that case would be to apply the Faust. But I think I'm still coming up short. Yeah. By 4. Okay, so I don't think the Chrysalis helps us here. I suppose our next best would have been some kind of music, but the music wouldn't allow me to use the Ichor Auroral. So from there, well, okay. So the only reason I'm doing this is because I said, hey, maybe I should try some of the lantern stuff. The argument for Sky is even weaker than the lantern stuff. So let me just make sure that the bases are dealt with. That would be Forge and Edge. I believe they are. There are technically a couple of other Forge things I need to try, so let's get those out of the way. And then I think I'll put that on the too hard pile if these don't work. So my best Forge memory is still Earthquake name, and then we basically make the rest happen with substances. So first thing I want to do is add the orichalcum wire, because I haven't tried that yet. Well, I have tried it, and I just didn't record it. Which makes me wonder what happens if I add the iotic or xanthotic essence. There we go. Yeah, so I was wondering, once I saw multiple Forge ones, I did sort of wonder if it was these transformations. I really should have tried that first, but I actually think there's even a book that talks about specifically the Meniscate and these kinds of transformations, but I am also tired, so glad I could actually hang on. I should double check I'm actually allowed to put that away, but I believe there was just one more for me to work with there. We should be able to verify it by adding. Yeah, okay, so that's filled out. Desires and dissolutions. This has got to be about the Mommet. No, because we've already got the Flush Mommet. Okay, so apparently it's Moon and or Grail. And apparently I haven't recorded Grail. Let me double check that. Oddly enough, I apparently have not tried the Grail stuff. I think this really strikes me as one where if I add a Ruby-wise Ruin, we'll probably be able to call it. Well, shows what I know. I will try adding... can I add a fabric here? I can't remember. Yes, because it's remains. let's try the moon stuff before I go too much further. In fact, one of the first ones I'll try. I don't think this will do the trick, but let's see if adding the Stimfling. Yeah. Worth a try, but I believe the Stimfling with sufficient moon is the normal way you get Wormwood Dream. Okay, so Asmiel's probably the next best one to try. There we go. Black Sapphire Wash. I think that one I probably hadn't found just because I didn't have enough moon at the time. So we're going to be on to our last trio tomorrow. Tomorrow game time, not tomorrow stream time, obviously. So we'll be trying Pearl and Tide, Serpents and Venoms, Furs and Feathers. And maybe what I'll do this time around, I should have enough time in the day, perhaps I try and make some of those memories. So if I take my Lesser Arab, probably add Disciplines of the Hammer. So what I'm trying to do is make a winning move. And actually, while I'm at it, let's see if I can also make a name... Well, I'll make a name day riddle after talking with Reverend Timothy. Actually, you know what? I'll probably... No, I'm going to resist the urge to do that, actually. There is sense in making the Invincible Audacity, so I will commit to that, but trying to make... trying to keep a name day riddle while also trying to keep an old moment. Oh, interesting. So we are at the end of the lesson, or the end of the series. I don't need to listen to everything Reverend Timothy says. He doesn't really even expect me to, but I'm often glad when I do. Okay, so the Affair of the Friar's Tapestry. A tapestry has been stolen from the Ostorium that depicts details of a very old rite indeed, one that may only be performed at Gladwin Lake when the moon is ripe. Exactly what it might renew is unclear, but almost inevitably someone will try it anyway. Father Schaller came to Hush House to investigate the possibility that the rite was a Hostorium trap, and mentioned, perhaps only in passing, that he had managed Teresa Galmier's reincorporation. MCO Lee researched countermeasures at Hush House, hoping to limit any damage caused by the rite. Dr. Peel went off to watch the rite at Gladwin Lake, intoning sinister names, Robigo the Generous with hosts, the Crown Growth, or Tuccio. And Yvette, Dr. Southey's patient, believed he would be reborn at Gladwin Lake beneath the moon, and she decided, after visiting Hush House, that it would be futile to try and prevent him from going. Always the tide. A story has no beginning or end. Arbitrarily, one chooses that moment of experience from which to look back on, or from which to look ahead. Graham Greene. Nothing particular is afoot. Any visitors this season will likely just want a general consultation, and Eason Fekri has arrived. Unfortunately, Eason does not know Kernwek Hanavek either. But I do want to see what happens when I show him Fekri's Herbery. Formerly, Eason was a healer. He was not human. He was Secretary Salvant of Hush House, but not all at the same time. Fussy, kind, famously foul to look upon. I've gotten a little unlucky with the draws. This is one of the drawbacks about the approach that I've taken here, is that because I do want to complete all of the... Hello, Nincompoodle. How you doing? With Keeper level Heart, the Paean is the precursor to Swaddled Thunder. So we will give this a try. It's not persistent, so we need to make the most of it for the day. But I really am only trying Stitching and Binding. Yeah. Fair enough. You just got home from spending time with a girl that you enjoy being around. How are you? I don't have quite the same same reason to be happy, but I'm quite worn out from the last few days of work. But other than that, I am feeling quite good. I mean, the job, I think I said this at the beginning of the stream, like, I am so obviously in over my head as far as the work is concerned. But I'm really happy to be where I am. They are making me feel very welcome. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like I want to be at a place where I can just sort of phone it in or well, I mean, it's only okay, so like the thing I'm working at, so it's a particular set of okay, that's sorry, the particular set of skills line is from one of those Liam Neeson kidnapping movies. Not quite what I'd meant. It's one of these things where you can't really have experience before doing, like, there are a few narrow places where you can have experience, but like that's not the expectation. Like, the expectation is that you are yeah, no. it's not. I'm not a hired. I've never seen Taken, so I don't. I'm assuming he's some kind of hired killer or something like that. It feels like he did Taken, and then that's like the only Liam Neeson movie now. I never knew him as the you know, you messed with the wrong guy leading man, but that is apparently his genre. But yeah, no, it's yeah, if you saw the trailer, that's all you need to know. Yeah, that's like, I think, I actually don't think I know anyone who has seen that movie, but everybody knows the reference. But yeah, so it's just one of these things, right, where the qualities that get you the job, so far as I can tell, are being, you know, intellectually curious, have something of a background in terms of being able to do research. Like, these are that you can do sort of a checklist of like the qualities that I suspect are probably ones that you might associate me with. Like, they were quite clear in terms of wanting me for the job, and I have to assume that, like, you know, it's completely pointless to sort of self-select out of you know, I'm gonna just try something a little crazy here. Let's see what happens if we do this with Sky. Well, first of all, I'm going to need to find a lot more Sky, but okay. Denzel sort of took the torch for don't mess with it. Yeah. No, Denzel is absolutely the sort of guy who would be a Liam Neeson style character. But yeah, no. So it's just one of these things, right, where like, the first couple of days, it's been great to go to this place because they are really on top of getting everything set up. My old place, I definitely know it would have been like pulling teeth to do half of the setup that they've done. But like, part of it for the last 2 days has just been reading the kind of reports that they do, and like, every single time it is like just pages of notes of like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What on earth does this mean? And even during meetings, and there's the one thing I will say that again, I am too early in this particular job to say what works and what doesn't, but I definitely can see qualities that would serve you very poorly in a role like this. Because I remember being in a meeting, right? And like, so, you know, I'm the new guy. I'm fresh on the team. As it happens, it took me a long time to get my computer set up. So I was pretty much, I don't know if I was late, but I was definitely close to getting late. Like, my manager came down to get me at the place, and like, not in a bad way. Like, I'm sure they all accepted that, yeah, that took longer than that was planned, but like, it's one of these cases, right, where you want to make a good impression, And I've TA'd enough courses to know, I'm not going to wait too long on this, by the way, so for those of you who are here for gameplay, but I've TA'd enough courses to know that it is really hard to get people to ask questions. And like, why don't people ask questions? They don't want to look foolish. And I know that, you know, there's always, you know, there's no dumb questions or, you know, things like that. People will say everything they can to encourage questions, but people just have that feeling. And of course, like my estimate was always, you know, if somebody raised their hand with a question, it meant there were like 10 other people. And you could tell just from the looks of relief on people's faces. And I would point out the looks of relief on faces. I think I stopped doing this, but I seem to remember there was even like one or two students that I pointed out, and it was like, okay, well, you look relieved. So your job next time is when everybody's feeling lost on the nonsense that I'm saying, you're going to be the one who puts up their hand, right? The good news is that it was an econ class, so I could talk about things like tragedy of the commons and try and put it in econ terms. But yeah, no, like it's just, you know, it's hard when you people don't like to admit that they don't know things. And so with that in mind, right, it is not easy to see a room full of your new coworkers, and when they are talking with lingo that, you know, just rolls off the tongue for them, is completely ordinary. They are talking like they have talked that way their whole lives. And you say, I'm sorry, could you tell me what X, Y, or Z is? You know, like, yeah, you feel like a moron doing it. You know, you do have that little bit of worry that, oh, everyone thinks, you know, you are totally unequipped for the job because you had to ask that question. But it is extremely important that you do that. In my view, at least, right? Because the alternative essentially says that you kind of feel like there's nothing more to learn, or that, you know, you can fake your way to it. And like, to a certain extent, some of the stuff you can fake it, right? Like, there are a couple of papers where I found very minor errors, but, you know, I was able to look at it and said, you know, this doesn't quite make sense to me, right? It doesn't add up. And I always put the caveats where it's like, you know, obviously I'm new to this. There's probably something that I'm missing here, but this was unclear. And sure enough, for those, like, one of the guys actually kind of took me aside. He says, like, thank you for that. You have no idea how many people have reviewed this paper and no one noticed it. And again, it's because I'm the new guy. Every single piece of information is new and very valuable to me. So of course I'm going to read the whole thing through. Of course I'm going to check. And yeah, when you're talking to a more senior person who obviously knows their stuff, you kind of feel like you're taking your life in your hands to point out something that seems like a mistake, but you do it anyway, because how else are you going to learn if you don't interact with people on it? So anyways, you fool, we have learned enough through school on how to get the teacher off topic. We will push that knowledge to the next level to distract the streamer. I mean, joke's on you. I like doing the digressions. I just know that some people get really annoyed with them. So I'm doing my best to try and keep both groups happy. In any case, so the trick on this is that, like, so I am very happy to be there. I hope that I will do a good job. I would feel quite bad about myself if I really blow it. But I have to earn that, right? I can't coast. Like, this is the problem, is that the old place, I did have a reputation for being very good at what I did. And I think there is a reasonable argument to be made that I was very good at what I did. But I also know to a certain extent I was coasting, because the things that they thought were very, very difficult to do were quite natural for me. Now, that is part of my specialized knowledge. That is part of what I... my particular skill set is, to bring to bring back that. But the fact of the matter is that I don't want to become some sort of lifer. doing something that I think has its own level of importance, but is not necessarily using everything that I am capable of. Yeah, thank you. That is something I do think is important. Um, so, this new position is very different from the things. I'm sure they'll be grateful for me to have the skill set that I have, but it's not going to be like that. That's what they know, right? That's maybe what they hired me for, or at least the promise that is shown for that I was hired for. If I don't have the capacity to build on that, then I really have chosen the wrong path. So now, what do you think about eventually finding a position you're fine with, then getting your challenge through hobbies and off the clock activities? Well, I'm kind of already doing that. It is one small regret I have about the position right now, which is that, and if you're trying to get me off topic, well done, you've succeeded. I mean, I was doing game analysis stuff on weekends pretty regularly. And I still do the writing. Like I've written every single. Actually, what does the spreadsheet say I'm on? I haven't updated it. I'm behind 2 days in terms of updates, but that shouldn't be too hard to replace. I've written them down somewhere. I just need to get them. So 597 consecutive days. I mean, obviously not all the writing has been of equal quality, but 597 consecutive days from the day I said I'm going to write every single day. Because I don't like being the sort of person who will consistently do streaming and yet say I am struggling to find time to write. But yeah, it is definitely not the case that work itself needs to be the challenge. So I suppose if I were to have a particular, like if I had some kind of sinecure somewhere, as long as I could keep myself sufficiently amused and challenged with my own things. But the thing is that one of the things that work will sometimes do, like this is kind of tying into some of the, like one of the more recent articles that I've written. The thing to remember about working for a place, and this could be, private sector, this could be government, this could be a university, that very often when you go to work somewhere, and this is different from founding your own company, but when you go to work somewhere, what's happened is someone has put together a collection of resources, and that will mean your coworkers, but that will also sometimes mean, in my case, it's very often access to data. In some cases, that might mean access to certain tools. So, for instance, I would love to have a copy of Stata on my computer. I actually would very much be interested in doing a couple of streams based off of doing analysis inside of Stata. But Stata is a pretty expensive program. I'll just give you guys an idea of the cost. I can bring it up real quick. It's probably in US, but I don't think anybody's going to go rush out and buy a license and think it's in Canadian. So the most fair, so if I were to actually be using this, I would need to get the business license, right? I wouldn't be able to use it for commercial use. So the least expensive option is SE, which I've never used, incidentally. I have always used a multi-core version of Stata. But the least costly version is an annual license of $840 a year. The 2-core is $985. The 4-core is $1,095, and I think I'm on a 12-core. I can't remember. 12-core would be $1,755 US. Now, in fairness, I probably wouldn't need a 12-core on that. It's not like, unless I'm working with some really preposterous data, the extra cores are probably they're probably done. But that's an annual subscription, right? And even $840 is quite a bit to be spending on just a statistical product. You can buy a perpetual license, which obviously when they release new ones, you don't get that. You're locked into whatever version you bought at. But that's about equivalent to a 3-year license. So for the low end one, you're looking at about $23.95, and for the 12-core version, I'm just going with that because I think my laptop has got 12 cores. I guess I'm like 16 on this one, but you're easily looking at about $5,000 for the statistical program, and it's worth it, right? Like if you do economics academically, basically every paper is done in Stata. If you go, in fact, some of you can like okay, so if you have a university library access, if you go to any of the like major journals, so American Economic Review or the like Quarterly Journal of Economics, Econometrica, whatever. I mean, you can search this stuff out. You can look at the impact factor or whatever. But when you take a look at the replication data, in fact, usually you can find the replication data directly on the author's website. Almost always it's going to be in a stata.dat file with a stata.do file. Sometimes you'll see some stuff in MATLAB, particularly if it's like time series. But yeah, for the most part. And I had to replicate a paper that was done in Fortran because why not, right? And they had to learn like OpenMP too because anyways, that doesn't matter. That's not. Oh, and then I found out there was a part that I needed to pay money for. So I was like, okay, I'm interested in this paper, but I'm not that interested. So I kind of moved on from there. But like, again, whether it's a business, whether it's academia, whether it's government, one of the things that has happened, and this is kind of the reason why like CEOs and chancellors and all of that make the big bucks, is they have organized all of these factors of production together to make you more productive than you would be on your own. And then, of course, if you are the person running the business, even if you're a small business or whatever, the idea here is that you have got some capability of being able to manage those factors of production for yourself in a way that creates value for a customer that will presumably pay you equal to, if not greater, presumably greater because you're taking on risk, but basically that you're going to be paid commensurate to the value that you're making. And I'd like to try and do something like that, but I do know like I'm terrible at pricing myself. I have no idea how I would find clients. I am definitely not the sort of person who's cut out to make their own business. Maybe that's something I could do on my own, but so for that reason, Nincompoodle, I do independent projects, and there are ways that I push myself. There are ways that I sharpen my skills. Sometimes they just sharpen my skills so that I can get better in my day job. But one of the things that I do tend to find about the workplace, again, is the fact that very often in workplace, and again, like please keep in mind that not every, sorry, I just got a vast alert. Not every workplace is going to be like this, right? It's not like I like plumbed the depths of my Starbucks job when I worked there to try and find out, what the hidden recesses of getting the pastry case filled even faster, right? Like sometimes a job's a job. But yeah, no, like for the most part, what makes a job particularly good for that particular, sorry, I say particular too many times. What makes a job suitable for that kind of challenge is, again, the fact that you are very likely given access to things that may not be available to you in the day-to-day world, in your day-to-day life. And that is usually the reason why you get well paid at certain jobs. So, if you go and work for Goldman Sachs, do you have to be very smart? Yeah, it's an incredibly competitive role to get, right? Do you have to work your ass off? Absolutely you do. They will know if you have not done the required reading. But will you be well paid? Unquestionably, right? And it is because they have access to information, they have relationships with clients, they have IT resources, they're bringing in, very smart people, potentially, brain draining other more productive sectors of the economy of talent that it desperately needs, just because the money that they can throw at these kinds of problems are there. But again, that money being spent means that they expect a return, and that usually means that you try and find people who are quite capable. And whether that's because of their drive or, maybe there is, natural talent that just makes you a genius at stuff. But I tend to find it's a combination of sort of the drive, the foundations in terms of a set of knowledge. It's a kind of a combination of things that work together. But in the end, one of the reasons why I find the workplace is more appropriate there is just usually because one way or another I have access to something that I wouldn't in day-to-day life. And it doesn't have to mean that I'm, working for a hedge fund or something like that. And that could just be as simple as I have access to software which would be prohibitively expensive for me to use on my day-to-day, computing. Maybe if, the stream gets bigger or something like that. I have actually worked out a budget in terms of what it would cost me to do like econometrics kinds of streams, if I was going to pay my own way with the licenses and things like that. But, it would probably help if I could learn to build and maintain a certain size of audience to make that financially viable. But anyways, hopefully that answered your question. All right, so I was still waiting for the winning move. We'll have that in 10 seconds. And then when we're done with Reverend Timothy, we will talk with Eason to see what's up. Conversation with Eason Fekri. It's good to be back. Thank you for seeing me. So, Fekri Zerbri? Not a bad effort, that one. I've learnt a little more lore since then, but I hope you still find it useful. May I take a look? Eason will examine the book and return it to you. He won't leave until his other business is concluded. The early wisdom of Eason Fekri, at that point a traveling healer, much later the Secretary Salvant of the Curia of the Isle. It's funny, you say that, Nincompoodle, but actually one of my best performing videos is me doing a replication, or trying to do it. I actually only did half of the replication. One of my better performing videos is actually specifically me doing a replication of an economics paper. So the weird thing is that there is actually an audience for it, but you're right, it's probably a live audience. Well, the other problem too is that with a live audience, you will inevitably get a group of people who either want to show off or who have a particular issue with the topic that's being discussed, right? So, they've got something at stake in terms of a particular view of the world. And so even if you're staying neutral on the conclusions of the paper and are just trying to report what the what the paper is saying and discuss the methods being used, it's it's one of these things where a live format can sometimes be a bit disruptive. In fairness, you kind of want to you also want to be a good enough instructor that you don't let other people disrupt the conversation. But I know in terms of a live audience, there would definitely be some adaptation that I would need. But in terms of YouTube videos, it's weird, actually. There is a surprising demand for it, and I actually wasn't really aware of it until people started leaving comments asking when I was going to do the second part. I think part of it too is the scarcity of that type of content. Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. To be fair, I look at a bunch of econ, like esoteric econ stuff on YouTube all the time. But it's weird, right? Like there is, you kind of wonder, like, is there the supply constraint or the demand constraint? And like in the end, like the thing I probably need to realize is that, like, yes, it's niche, but the audience is global, right? I think this is to a certain extent the promise that indie gaming is founded on, that the nichiest niche still potentially has an audience that is much larger than you would imagine. And it's actually where I feel a lot of indie games that are coming out are potentially failing it. Now, please don't mistake me for saying that this says that any game will do. That is definitely not what I'm saying. But the idea that you need to make a game that looks like the other ones, or you need to do what the other people are doing. To a certain extent, you can see why that's a seductive idea, right? It's a quote unquote best practice. You know, you follow the people who've seen success before you. But I very often find that it's, you know, Rocket League but with a lower budget, Dark Souls but with a lower budget, Hollow Knight but the animation doesn't look as good. And it's fine to have, you know, inspiration and influences, but the fact of the matter is, like, even the costly games, right? So a game that I would consider costly would be Elden Ring. I've looked at Elden Ring, you know, plenty of times, and I'm like, you know, it's a little pricey for me. And, like, again, I'm not crying poverty. I have a decent job. You know, obviously I'm very excited to be at my job, but, like, it's just the sort of thing that I'm not going to say casually, you know, I might not get around to this for a couple of months. I'll just drop that money on that, right? I haven't even heard of Everhood. I'm gonna have to take a look that up. Oh, so basically just guitar. Yeah. So this is the neat thing, right? Like, it doesn't. You can work within existing genres, and you can work within gaming conventions. But what I do tend to find is that, like, I even said this in the interview with Weather Factory, right? Like, if you asked me on paper, would this be a successful game? I would give that a very, very low probability, right? So it's a rogue, like Cultist Simulator. It's a roguelike, and you don't tell people how to play it, and it's all in text with cards. And you never leave the desktop, right? Good luck on your next game, right? So, but, you know, this has really spoken to people. And, like, this is the thing, right? Like, it's sometimes hard to imagine the person you would be, you know, prior to the world as it turned out. You know, clearly, as someone who is very, very fond of both Cultist Simulator and the Book of Hours, and knowing that these are, you know, two successful games, you know, a lot of people like to kind of pretend that they would be certain for things that are anything but. You know, the fact of the matter is that I would probably be, if I had a chance to invest in Cultist Simulator or Book of Hours, I probably wouldn't have gone. Well, okay, that's not entirely true. I did kickstart back. I was a Kickstarter backer for Cultist Simulator. But then, I mean, kickstarting a game is different from, like, investing in a game, right? Investing involves more money, and there's the risk, right? So the risk of the purchase price of a game is kind of the risk that you take buying something on a game storefront. Maybe the game's not very good. But yeah, no, it's just it's one of these things, right, where if it was obvious or easy, everyone would be doing it. But the challenge is that, and again, I totally get why people are doing this, right? They want to follow what's come before. They want to do the things that they're passionate about, and they have a lot at stake on the success of the game. But unfortunately, those qualities seem to be leading some people, at least, to be making games that maybe aren't as interesting as they otherwise could be. And you know, as a result, it just means that there's this very large number of games that don't provide that that kind of satisfaction, and you see the results in the marketplace. So anyway, seeing you stream Everhood would be cool. The lore isn't as deep and mysterious that you'd have to do an intensive deep dive. A simple man like he understood it, but it's definitely engaging. No, I mean, I like something meaty, right? Like, I've loved Civilization forever, and I know people who describe Civilization as, like, that is the aspirational strategy game, right? Like, that is the, you know, oh, I wish if one day I could play Civilization. And, like, to me, that's kind of table stakes. So it's, you know, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have an appeal for there wasn't an appeal for a certain degree of complexity. But I mean, I like a lot of different types of games, and there is something to be said for simplicity. So Don't run yourself down like that, Nincompoodle. But I will take a look at Everhood. No promises in terms of streaming because I'm really far behind on the list of things that I want to do. But I always do like it when people talk about this sort of stuff because it means if an opportunity comes up for me to stream something similar, then I'll take it. And your whole figuring out the game is the game niche is, the whole figuring out the game is the game niche is so enthralling, but it relies on the payoff being worth the investment, i.e. Cultist Simulator, Outer Wilds, for sure. And you can see in the reviews, right, that doesn't work for everybody. What matters, though, is that the audience that was reached out to and ultimately did buy the game did, it's just enough people either saw the value in what was happening or otherwise were satisfied by the journey. But like you say, the delivery, you do need to deliver, otherwise you've done the worst thing, right? You've wasted someone's time. And yeah, Nick, but it's why, like, I don't want to sound, I realize I sound like such a flake every single time I say stuff like that, but it really is just a question of, like, when you want to manage expectations. I have also had the problem where, like, if you like watching someone and you like a game, you immediately assume, I like this person's stuff, I like this game, person who likes, I like watching, plus this game I like together will be the best stream ever. And of course, liking someone's content doesn't necessarily mean that their taste in game is the same as yours. And what can happen is they actually really don't like the game that you like. And all of a sudden, something that you would think would be the best stream, I'm sure you've probably experienced this actually, what should be the best stream ever actually turns into this really uncomfortable stream where this person's trashing a game that you really like. This is one of the reasons I don't like trashing games. Number one, I dislike relatively few games. There are some games I like more than others, but like there's few where I'm like, this was a complete waste of time and I am mad that I played this. There's a couple, but not a lot. But yeah, I am kind of conscious of the fact that people grow very attached to games, and I love that. Like, the weirdest thing that ever happened to me was, I can't even remember the name, but I worked on a movie of the week where it's like, my opinion has always been, it's the camera department. The movies always look good, right? There are very, very few bad movies that you would see on TV or watch in the theater that, that you would say, oh, the photography sucked. Like I was under no impression. Like, there's a couple of things that were good. Actually, I can't even say they were good. People have heard of and like are recognized as being generally good. Maybe the endings people didn't care for, but I don't know. Yeah, it was like the most generic kind of like, they're trying to fill a couple of hours, I think maybe it was like a Lifetime movie. Woman finds herself through, 90 minutes of relatively minor challenges, which are maybe inflated beyond what they should be. I mean, we've all seen some kind of a show like this, right? Maybe not like a Lifetime movie of the week like that, but we've all seen the sort of kind of filler sort of show. Like, you're not mad that you watched it, but you're probably not gonna go on it. And yet, this kind of Nick and Boodle knows the genre well. One of those kinds of movies was something, I can't even remember how they found out. I think they might have looked me up on IMDb or something like that. But they talked about that. Like, that was genuinely one of their favorite movies. Like, this was a movie that they really liked and it meant a lot to them. They'd even say, I know nobody else really cares for it, but it just means so much to me, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, I just think it's like, I wish I could tell you some sort of a story, but like, I don't think anybody on this thing thought it was anything but that paycheck, right? It's a couple months work, you know? And we moved on. I think I had a couple. I actually, the problem was they were kind of negative stories. I remember there was, the actress thought she was really funny, but didn't have that good of a sense of humor, but like everyone laughed because it's the talent. And this is not the sort of thing you should self-apply. I feel like I have my moments when it comes to humor, and certainly in the workplace, like having a sense of humor is a really good way to diffuse the tension. And when you are working 18 hours with a bunch of people, there's tension. But it is usually, I don't know, sardonic is maybe the word. Anyway, there's a couple I'd put through where it's sort of like, you know, everyone laughed, but they kind of were mad that they laughed. Those kinds of jokes. Yeah. Anyways, but it was always a tricky one, right? Because you could never upstage the actress who definitely, you know, thought she was the funniest person in the room whenever she was there. So, but it is what it is. I still got paid. Also, I committed the cardinal sin of saying I think I'm funny. Let me reiterate, I have my moments. But yeah, so it's just like, I'm not even going to pretend that was some kind of eye-opening moment for me, like the end of the Lifetime movie where the rich stressed girl falls in love with the relaxed country guy. But I don't know. It's it is a helpful framing. I mean, to a certain extent, one big takeaway that I think more people should take is that nobody really knows what's going to be a hit. Like, there are sometimes hints in that, but I can remember, like, there are people where it's like, oh, what you fail to take into it, like whenever it comes to forecasting sales, you know, you need to take a look at like YouTube views or something like that. I'm like, what YouTube views for an unreleased game? Like, you know, there can be games where there is a lot of hype, but all that you're doing there is you're measuring the hype, and the hype is correlated with sales, right? So yeah, any idiot could have looked at the you know, YouTube measures for Cyberpunk 2077 and said that it would have been, you know, a hit. You know, do that for Cultist Simulator and tell me it's going to be #1 on Steam when it comes out. But people, I mean, again, people never think about the unrealized outcomes, right? There's a probability distribution. We get to see one realization in life, right? Unless you're like doing an experiment or something like that. For the most part, we will only ever see the realized outcome, even if it was an incredibly remote possibility. Like, it could be that there was something. I'm just trying to remember if there's another book that Ethan Fekri wrote. But again, even if the realized outcome was an incredibly remote possibility, people will always treat it like a certainty because they've lived life, and that's how it turned out. Anyways, like Palworld becoming a hit. I'd never even heard of Palworld until it basically ate the world. It's on Game Pass, so I should probably give it a try. But with what time though, right? Sorry, I know I've spent a lot of time talking. I actually just need a minute to reset. I'll get my tablet lined up as well, but I just need a minute to kind of shake the cobwebs out. Kind of debating on making a What was I gonna say? Making I was thinking of making a snack, but I only have like half an hour left, so I'll push through it. The company just pulls stuff from other games and makes it a game. They had a previous game called Craftopia, and it was the same thing. Pulled a bunch of content from. Oh, interesting. Huh. Now, I don't think Fekri's Herbery is the one that refers to Ava's love. Maybe it is. I think there's like the sea does not regret the tide. Yeah, no, hang on, because he talks about how he used to be a Scaptodon, and then says the sea does not regret the tide, and I'm pretty sure that's the name of the book, or maybe it's the sea does not regret. But that should be shelved here with the rest of his work, so either I don't have it or I misshelved it. Hey, Lord Gloom! I started streaming after you did, and now you're hosting me, which means I've been playing too long. How are you doing? Yeah, no, actually, I appreciated the break, Nincompoodle, just because again, I'm really fighting with the fact that I'm still sort of like 5 hours short on the sleep I should have gotten, and like I said, there's this job. It's like it's constant mental effort, right? And the sneaky part about mental effort is I have had a job where I need to like pick up heavy things and put them down again, which is funny because I am super skinny. But I easily like a day of just constant mental focus is easily more exhausting than if you feel sore at the end of a heavy physical labor day. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not pretending that that's an easy day, but I am wiped when I have to like use my noggin. You are doing well. We did some art and then played an arena deck builder roguelike game called Alina of the Arena. That is a fun name. So I'm actually going to take down a couple of notes here because there was Nincompoodle was talking about oh god, Everhood. I'm like 99% sure it was Everhood. Let me just put this here. Okay, but now I'm probably going to be, I think the majority of my viewership at this point is probably going to be from Lord Gloom, but for those of you not familiar with Lord Gloom, somebody I found through Cobalt Core, but is certainly a man of many talents. I've been mostly watching him play Tarkov, either alone or with friends. Actually, I think you've always been playing with friends whenever I've been watching you. But, like I said, found through Cobalt Core. I have not yet had the pleasure of seeing an art stream. I hear rumors of these art streams. And as you can see from the description, while I may call myself a variety streamer, despite the fact I've been playing the same darn game for the last couple of months, Lord Gloom is in fact a variety streamer. So I would say is a good... I mean, I would say just a good fit. I will say I really got a lot out of the Cobalt Core streams, and I would be particularly interested to see Alina of the Arena just because of the card connection. But excuse me, I'm sorry. For those, God damn it. Okay, for those of you who just arrived, I have been working a new job this week, and I am very grateful to be there. But holy smokes. I got a lot to catch up on to actually be productive on that team. So I am very, very tired, but I do still want to do my best with the stream and with the job. So, anyways, for those of you who don't know Lord Gloom, definitely check them out. For those of you who've come along with Lord Gloom, thank you for coming along. I hope you stick around if you Haven't seen Book of Hours, although because I'm currently looking for a book I may not have in my library, this may not be the best example. But this is a game in which you inherit an occult library. You are the librarian of Hush House. You are actually in a shipwreck before you can arrive to the library, and you need to work your way to the library first. But this is kind of a cozy occult sort of crafting RPG where the house is kind of a character of its own, and you sort of uncover the mysteries of what happened there, why it is in such disrepair, what the fire that everybody refers to was. You talk with the villagers. It's definitely a really interesting game. If you're the sort of person who likes reading the item descriptions and trying to work out the lore in Dark Souls, this is actually a really good game for that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a very special game. It's made by Weather Factory, who made Cultist Simulator, and it takes place in the same world. And it is a really, really enjoyable experience. It's also just very relaxing. So, what's happened to the book? You can, in fact, destroy the books. Take that, Henry. If I cast an object into the fire, it will be transformed, destroyed, lost. I mean, I am near the end in the sense that I believe as soon as I am able to get Numa, we'll be winning the game. But okay, I am like 99% sure The Sea Does Not Regret is a book by Isshin Fekri. But I also don't see... I don't see where I would have shelved it except beside him. There's the sky, the soul. I'm sure this is probably in one of my other playthroughs. This is true. All right. Yeah, so what I think I'll do instead is I'll level up herbs and infusions, and then I don't know, we'll make do. Okay. It's good to be back. Thank you for seeing me. I can identify my visitors' interests and satisfy them with an appropriate book. Alternatively, if they know a language I'd like to learn, I can offer payment. So it's 5 heart or 5 sky, either or really. Apollo and Marsyas is too small. This is too big. And he probably doesn't know if you've seen. Yeah. I'm looking for a level 6. There we go. Against Vitruvius. My visitor has questions about the matters of the lower heavens. My collection has answers. So we'll get a small spin tree out of that. Nothing too dramatic, but... Okay. So let's get herbs and infusions. So a store... Actually, honestly, we can just read the books on the way here. So Solace from Traveling at Night Volume 2. Impulse from Traveling at Night Volume 1. Storm from Apollo and Marsyas, I think. What is the book you were looking for called? I could try to figure out what it looks like from Google, since it is literally just the fact of finding it in the house. Well, I've already committed to talking with Eason Fekri about another thing, but I'm pretty sure the book is either called The Sea Does Not Regret. I think it's The Sea Does Not Regret, or possibly The Sea Does Not Regret the Tide. But the more I think about it, the more I think the book is called The Sea Does Not Regret. This is purely academic at this point, by the way, but I suspect that this is not a book that I have, and in fact, it is. It is another playthrough that I'm remembering. Okay, so I've got a Storm, Solace, Impulse. I could use the Earth Sign. What else can I do for hard? Satisfaction, I think. Let me just double check that. No, the books are drawn from. So when you find, I think you were here when I've done this, but when you catalog a book, it's drawn from a deck. So there are a few guaranteed books in this game, but most of them are actually drawn from a deck of possibilities. There are books that across all of my playthroughs I have not read yet because I was offered one. I was offered to buy it, but I didn't have the money to buy it. So there are a lot of books in this game. And it's neat, right? Because if you SDNR and it is light purplish, fair enough. Probably a moon book then. So I guess it is called The Sea Does Not Regret. But yeah, the neat thing about it is, oh, excuse me. If you think of it, like everybody's journey through Hush House is different, right? They're each going to have different books and different perspectives that come from that. And that's one of the reasons why I find this game very appealing. But it, has its potential downfalls as well, where if you are kind of a completionist like me, you always feel a little weird about not reading the whole thing. Well, it's possible for important books like the Amberfleck Journal in my case. If you misplace your journal, there's no search function for it, and that's deliberate. Because searching through the house and figuring stuff out is a very large part of the game. It was weird. There was somebody on the Reddit who was kind of like, Weather Factory fans have a fetish for artificial difficulty or something like that. And I'm like, there is a certain style to these games, and I get that that's not for everyone, but I'm not entirely sure it's, I'm not sure people are like opposed to the game being presented in a better way. It just often seems to be the case that when people complain about this sort of stuff, they're not necessarily complaining about some kind of an interface so much as they're saying, I want the game to be simpler. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, folks. We're gonna search top to bottom to find the journal. It's one of the reasons I keep it in my inventory. But no, I mean, I've got a pretty decent filing system here. I feel somewhat confident that we don't have The Sea Does Not Regret. But I am gonna double check something on satisfaction though. Yeah, so we can read Fekri Zerpri. So I guess the example that I would take here would be like Alexis has talked about this for Cultist Simulator. The fact that you go to work every day, right? Like you actually have to go and take your reason slot and put it in Glover and Glover, or do your dance stuff as the dancer, or take your pick in terms of occupation in this setting. People call that tedious and grindy, and they're not even wrong to say that, right? But famously, Alexis is doing an art, I believe is his famous term for that. it is a role-playing game, but it's not the kind of role-playing game where you get experience points and you get a higher reason as a result of it. It's a role-playing game where you put yourself in the perspective of someone who's been given a small glimpse on a much larger world, and you are sort of left to deal with what that means, and to deal with that in a world that finds your interests not as interesting as you do, right? That is even quite hostile to sort of this world of dreams and such. And, look, it's completely, it's like the same way people say, it's like, why would I play The Sims? I already have my day-to-day life. I play games to escape. Nobody's saying that you have to go and play The Sims, right? The Sims will do fine without you. Actually, I could have used the Thunderskins PN now that I think of it. But there are a number of people that actually really do like playing games like that, or they do enjoy the process of taking that kind of perspective and maybe treating the game a little bit more like a book, like specifically a work of literature that you would take the individual lines from, or maybe you would look at the different relationships from the cards and you would think about them in maybe more of a deep way than you would. And you can actually do this in quite a satisfying way with lots of games. So if you've ever read, The Man in the High Castle, I haven't seen the TV show, so I can't say that I haven't seen any meaningful amount of the TV series. It looks very good, but, I can't say how faithful it is to the book. I think the book is very good. But, if you have seen or read alternate history like The Man in the High Castle, Wolfenstein: The New Order definitely punches above its weight. In fact, that's one of the big things about Wolfenstein: The New Order for me, was that game, I would have been delighted if it was just a good old romp, using modern technology, so that I could kill a bunch of Nazis, right? That is the only thing that Wolfenstein really needs to be. But it actually told, I thought, a pretty worthwhile story. I was quite invested in how that would turn out. Doom 2016, maybe not, you're probably not playing that for the story, but, there's a nice little bit, you can see a couple of echoes of sort of the Faust story present inside of that. So if you want, there is definitely more you can pull out of these games. But the thing is that a Weather Factory game, I sort of feel like these are people who obviously love who love literature, right? You only need to listen to Skeleton Songs to see just how widely and deeply read the people behind these games are. And so for people like that, people who do enjoy, reading things and thinking about them and sort of chewing on them and seeing what, what comes to mind after they've really spent some time with this, it's a set of games for people like that. And I like that there are, number one, I like that there are games like that, because obviously, I am sort of talking about someone a bit like myself. I wish I could read, I wish I read more fiction than I actually do, but I'm not unfamiliar with it. And, it's just very nice that there are enough people who like that to make these commercially viable games, because it means that hopefully other developers will see that, you don't just need to tell stories that are movies with some interactive bits in them, that you can in fact tell stories that are maybe best or can only be told in this interactive format. And hopefully it means that we get new and interesting things. Index Gnome, good to see you. I should warn you, I'm actually probably going to be wrapping up soon, but I appreciate you hanging out. Wolfenstein story is so awesome, the way Blazkowicz in the monologue speaks. Yeah, I mean, and the new Colossus follows up with it. I do really want to see where they go with the third one. I believe the third one is in production, but... Alright, Traveling at Night by the Only Readable Occultist. The annotated dream journals of Christopher Lopley, sometimes called the Only Readable Occultist. Literate, entertaining, bewildering. The wood lies outside the walls of the Mansis. As any student of the histories knows, the Mansis has no walls. Elopoli describes how he came to make repeated visits to a dream wood via what he calls silver dreams. Trying to think your way into the wood, he explains, is like thinking your way to being in love, but I did find a secret that helped. Traveling at Night, Volume 2, The Annotated Dream Journals of Christopher Elopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist, literate, entertaining, bewildering. There is an extensive discussion on the comparisons between Elopoli's own dreams and those of the Emperor Elagabalus, who Elopoli regards as a dupe or avatar of the sun in rags. The white is west of the world, Elopoli remarks, and winter does not wait forever. Elagabalus found his way to the White Door at last, thankfully. Speech can't pass the White Door, and honestly Elagabalus never had anything very interesting to say. I tried to follow in his footsteps, but I never learnt enough of the White. I suppose I'm thankful for that too, but here's what I do know. I forgot that line. So I see you've put your time in the Wolfenstein series. Apollo and Marsyas, the libretto of a lost opera concerning the contest between Apollo and Marsyas and its tragic outcome. The librettist is identified only by their initials. In the original myth, Marsyas lost the musical contest and was flayed by Apollo, who later regretted it. In this version, Marsyas' skin has a further history. The skin of Marsyas gives oracles, and is later smuggled to Phrygia, where the priestesses of Cybele use it for a drum. At the climax, the striking of the drum drives would-be violators of the priestesses to suicidal madness. The opera ends with a wistful hymn from the youngest priestess on the beauty of mountain pines. And finally, Fekri Zerberi. This is the book that we actually gave to Eason Fekri, and he gave us the Herbs and Infusions skill as a result. The early wisdom of Eason Fekri, at that point a traveling healer, much later the secretary salvant of the Curia of the Isle. As a Scaptodon, Eason may consume only what is found in the earth, so he is best with root lore. Eason identifies the pale seaweed found on the beaches of Cornwall as a useful source of rose and winter aspect. His tone here is a little guilty, perhaps because he's showing an interest in sea produce, which might be thought unwise for a Scaptodon, and perhaps because his proposal to name it Ava's Locks suggests a tiny crush on the Pale Lady of Brandkrug. Oh, that's funny. So the funny thing is, I think a lot of streaming kind of relies on that type of viewership. Like, I definitely have had some viewers who I don't know if they... Well, I think I get the impression that there are a few people who used to be regulars in here who watch the VODs rather frequently. But I've had a couple of the people just outright say, you know, I used to really like gaming. I don't really have the time for it now. But I like being able to watch, you know, other people play. And they've essentially said that's kind of the reason why they like watching my stuff, is because it's not just the gameplay, but it's also sort of describing the state of mind or the thought process behind it, which obviously that's not great for a first-person shooter like Wolfenstein. Like that one, you kind of want to see the action going, but that was very insightful. So first of all, if you're watching still, thank you. Yeah, no, it was a nice little perspective, because it's not the sort of thing, like I think the same thing everybody thinks when they first hear about streaming. It's like, why would anybody watch someone play a video game? It's like, well, that's what people do. Amazon spent a lot of money on getting a site that does that. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't want, like, I do like hanging out with certain broadcasters. Obviously, there are some personalities that I get along with, and I think are a big reason why I participate in streams. But you know, the fact of the matter is, like, I kind of follow the people who are not that interested in streaming, and I actually don't really see that as much of a contradiction. Like, you can enjoy... Actually, I suppose this is one thing I learned about the film, because, like, obviously I went to university and didn't do film, even though I'd worked in it. you can enjoy making something and not necessarily enjoy watching it, or vice versa, right? You can enjoy watching movies, you can enjoy playing games. Doesn't mean you have to make them. They're just two different sets of skills. Like people who bring a bit more than just the game to the... Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? Like, long plays exist. Long plays are, extended gameplay with no commentary. The best that I can do is try to use the game to support something else that I have to say. Oftentimes I don't hit the mark on the things that I want to say, but at least I can say it's my own, right? How promising. You've earned your satisfied your visitor and earned a reward, but the more they learn, the harder they will be to satisfy in the future. So an iron spentria for our trouble. Would have been nice if it was bigger, but... And let's talk with Reverend Timothy. Again, I'm not expecting miracles here. Now, I really should be wrapping up at this point, but tomorrow we've got Pearl and Tide, Serpents and Venoms, and Furs and Feathers. So if I do one more day, that's going to mean that I'm able to... The skill is now level 5, its power aspects have also increased. It means that when Friday comes along, I'm going to be able to focus on that subset that I wasn't able to figure out. Oh, interesting, Nincompoodle. I don't have ad breaks turned on. That's interesting if you're getting an ad in the middle of my stream, because I've actually specifically set it up. Like, there's a bonus you get. Oh, you accidentally hit the hotkey for refresh. That makes sense, yeah. The reason why I run ads when I go on break is specifically to avoid the pre-roll. And I'm sure most people know this now, but Twitch is basically offering a bonus if you run ads at a regular interval. But, like, could you imagine me doing my stream and, like, turning on ads running at certain intervals? Like, I mean, maybe what I do is I just talk and then I do the gameplay during the ad breaks. That'd be a fun incentive. Yeah, it's not a format that works for me, right? So, when I'm away from the computer, when I'm not talking, or when I'm not, doing anything, that seems like a good enough time. Because then people, if people really want to see everything, then they go up and get a glass of water or whatever. Basically do what I'm doing. But yeah, there's just something about the idea. Like, and again, not to knock other people who do that. I mean, especially because I know people who make a living doing Twitch stuff, right? So they got to make the money somehow. Yeah, like for me, I could not imagine a worse way to interact with my stuff. So the compromise is basically, people are not going to feel bad about walking away when it's just a like still screen. There's nothing to engage with. So, if that can put away the pre-roll for a little while, great. And if not, there you go. I do find it comedic when streamers use their ads aggressively. Saw a clip when somebody said something rude and the streamer hit them with, "Here's an ad," yeah. Outworld actually got quite a few people complaining about the rate of ads, and I know for him it was always like I don't think he ever deliberately hit the ad button when someone complained, but he did not have a whole lot of sympathy for people coming in and saying nothing but "you run too many ads." I don't know. It's like I think it comes back to some of what we were talking about before, right? You need to get value for what you're putting in. People aren't owed it. And, oh, what am I doing? Didn't want to work the sweet bones. I wanted to get Reverend Timothy. Reverend Timothy's door is always open to me. Reverend Timothy always jumps at the offer of my company. Yeah, I don't know. Like if you treat Twitch as some kind of ATM, you know, you're just not gonna have an audience, right? So I suppose I can sort of see people getting a little salty about ads if there's nothing behind it. But I mean, at that point, why are you watching, right? Actually, Lord Gloom's got this. So the ads are too much for you to think about most of the times. You just let them auto ad. It's much easier with Tarkov, though. I just run the ad when I'm loading into Raid. Yeah, I mean, that's a perfectly reasonable way of doing it. Like, the challenge for me is just like, you've hung around here enough, Lord Gloom, to know that, like, I don't shut up. And like, clearly, if I knew I was spouting nonsense and it was boring, if I had enough presence of mind to hit the run ads button, you know, I should have enough presence of mind to maybe get on with the point. So like the automatic ad break is just something that is completely inappropriate for my format. But you know, again, I need to be like, the problem is that there's so many people who will say something like that. And, you know, usually it'll be found with, oh, you know, and I like to think of this as a family, and families don't show ads to other. It's like, no, they're making their money some other way, right? There's a lot of insincerity that runs around on this stuff. And there's also some perfectly nice people who you know, who just do things a different way. But my view has always been like, you know, it's like having rules in a chat. If someone doesn't like talking about politics and religion, look, I mean, I think they're important topics and they're actually worth talking about. But I'm not going to go into someone's channel when it says don't talk about politics and religion and then, you know, demand that this be the thing we talk about. They've been very clear on what their intentions are. So yeah, I personally find it a little weird to go into a channel and, you know, not like their ad policy and get mad about it. It's like, there is exactly one element to this equation that you can control, and it does not involve like sassing the streamer about it. Noticing the unintentional ASMR tag, is that because you do sometimes just go off on a tangent? Yeah, basic. Well, the unintentional ASMR is because a couple of my videos I'm noticing are getting added to like ASMR playlists. So it's not like I'm going out of my way to provoke that kind of response. But hey, if it works for people, I'm not going to say don't do that, right? But yeah, no, it is. I mean, I'm just having a little bit of fun with that. But yeah, no, I go on tangents. So yeah, I mean, you make a very good point here, Lord Gloom. I mean, I'm not exactly crazy about spending money on Twitch, but I'm also not that bothered by the advertising. So, you know, and I sub to some channels. I talk more about ads on my own channel than I do anywhere else. I don't get it. I think the thing that really just weirds me out is how frequently people will come in and sort of make their list of demands, even if they're not like doing anything, even if they're not offering anything. So yeah, I used to do I think Ninkaboodle, I used to do some videos like that. The problem was that I took on too many things. But I did actually used to have a series that I would do, and I would play games like Surviving Mars, specifically because I thought that they were really good for just talking a little bit more of a, you know, calmer voice and sort of highlighting the qualities that people sort of seem to like in those kinds of streams. So you demand that we interrogate the dog, or not. He's probably a good puppers. Hammer time. 27 edge. And of course, we cannot forget the oubliette ASMR. 2 hours of this for a nice relaxing sleep. But no, let's do Pearl and Tide. Let's see what magic we can make happen. Or we'll put it on the too difficult pile and move on. Ah, there's no moon component. Okay, well, we can at least do the rose. Yeah, why on earth did I think there would be a moon component for this? That's an hotel. You can Iron Maiden the dog. Does it take pets? I click on this thing to make the sound, but I never actually see. No, regrettably, we cannot put the dog in here. Because Jessie occasionally stops by, and I know she was delighted to see the dog, and I know everybody feels really uncomfortable whenever I put the dog in the condignator. The dog survives as far as I can tell. But just being able to put the companion animals and some of the more uncomfortable ones just always creates that uneasy feeling in chat, which, what can I say? I have my ways. Anyways, Pearl and Tide. Let's see what we can do with this. Let's add the horizon. Well, we've already got the Enduring Reflection, so let's start with that and see if we can make a horizon sight. Okay, so now I'm going to bring up the spreadsheet. Now, I don't have a whole lot to go on here, so it could be Porphyryne, which would be a little odd, but okay, well, it's definitely not that. And the only other one that I had was light. Okay. So it could be that there are some level 15 rose or keeper level rose recipes that I'm not familiar with, or it could mean that this is a double moon, or it could mean something else. I mean, there are associations with the sea and heart, I guess. I don't normally associate the Thunderskin with the sea, but okay. Let's focus on moon. I can still add the Wormwood Dream. So we'll start with the Stimfling. I can't start with a Stimfling. Now we're going to try the rest. This is a pretty thin list I've got here. So I don't actually think the Nillicant really works here. Let's also try the Asmiel. Or, well, we already know that the Asmiel works here, so that's not the starter. So I've got to admit, I'm out of ideas once I add Essential Periost. Oh dear. Okay, I think I'm gonna put this one on the too. I think I'm gonna put this on the too difficult pile. I'm absolutely not in a mental state to put any extra thought into this stuff right now. You enjoyed your stay once more, but I will call it a night. Gonna relax for a bit longer before you rest. Enjoy the rest of your stream. Thank you very much, Nincompoodle. It's always nice to... I am actually a lot later. The good news is that I'm starting my day at home. So I don't have the... I will have an hour-long commute, but it will be an hour-long commute in the afternoon. So that is one of the reasons I feel a little more comfortable going a bit later. Now, I got to be careful about that, right? Because if I get into my bad sleeping habits again, then I'm just going to wind up, you know, feeling crummy later in the week. But I do have a little bit of flexibility, so... let's go. I think the Noctonary does scale. I thought wrong. I know the Forge does scale. I'm not hopeful on it, but let's give it a try at the start. Serpents and Venoms. We'll start with health. Interesting. Oh, Serpents and Venoms is Moon. All right, well, usual suspects. Okay. Forgot a couple of things at the Noctonary, but I think we're done with the Moon. We'll try the same thing with the Scale, and then we will move on. I wanted Solomon's Preparation. Hang on. I don't think I had enough. I'm just going to take a minute here and double check that I did in fact have 15 of the Moon before I wrote those off. Okay. And then the Stimfling... Again, I know we did this. Stemfling also has a fair amount of moons, so I'm not... Okay, yeah. So the last was the Essential Periost, but I'm not sure I can actually bring enough at the Noctonary. Actually, this is easier than I thought. So we take the Black Sapphire Wash here. I'll just double check that. Okay, yeah. Solomon's Preparation doesn't do anything. So we're going to try Remains. Fair enough. Alright, so not too sure what to make of that, to be honest. Actually, there is one scale thing I didn't try. That'd be weird if it worked this way, but no, don't have the old moment. Okay, once more. So I need to find 4 more between the metal and the fuel. I don't even know if there is a scale serpentinite slab. I mean, now I need to find 2... Actually, the Lignum Vitae Blanc does the trick, I think. Oh, fair enough. I was thinking maybe we could get a earthquake name out of that, but... Oh, Oswin, no. You came from Cultist Simulator. What in the world are you looking at? So I must apologize. I'm actually getting ready to wrap up. But this is Book of Hours, the follow-up to Cultist Simulator, which you probably already knew. Now, I will just caution you, I am very far into the game. I am on what is essentially the last puzzle, or not even puzzle really, but I need to wait for a particular season, and then I will be able to take the final action to complete this playthrough. Yeah, this is a... So this is the nice version of Cultist Simulator. It doesn't have the roguelike element. It will not kill you for playing the game wrong. It's a relaxed crafting RPG where you inherit an occult library. One thing that's different, so there's still the crafting, there's still the combining the different cards together and trying to find those combinations by reading books and such. But what won't be apparent from this playthrough is you actually unlock every single one of these rooms, and as you'll notice, there are a whole bunch of different objects to investigate. So Hush House itself is kind of this character, and a very large part of this game is learning the history of Hush House and its various librarians. So for instance, you wind up putting the busts of the librarians in niches if you are so inclined. It's a nice little way of just keeping track of things. But each room has sort of its different period. So this is the baronial period as opposed to the solar Gothic period. And the game sort of doles out a number of mysteries that are not just tied to the secret history setting from Cultist Simulator, but also just little things like, oh, how do I make this thing work together properly? So it's a much larger game. In fact, I had at some point an exact number. I think it's just shy of 500,000 words for this game. Let me just double check that that's no, you know what? That's going to take me too long to find. But anyways, there's a lot in this game, but it's really, really good. All right, so I gave up on Serpents and Venoms. So Furs and Feathers... Actually, Furs and Feathers might be in the same boat as well, because I think that one's got a Sky and a Scale challenge, neither of which I feel very confident about. So how do I handle my scale worries? Probably by going to the Horndax first. So if I try Furs and Feathers, if we try Scale first, we can add our health. So part of the first part of this is just trying to get up to the 15, because these are some of my weakest memories by far. Okay, so one thing we know for sure is that it doesn't generate an earthquake name. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the right tab. Now, the Living Relic is a possibility here. We've got one to spare. Living Relic did not care for that particular choice. Okay, now Houndsgall is another possibility, but I don't have a slot for it here, so we'll have to find somewhere else. Parabate, same problem. I don't see a leaf working. Now, weirdly enough, I've got Savage Hymn listed as well. I don't think I've ever had... Oh yeah, we don't have a Savage Hymn, so... and Bisclever's not. Now, this would be the very first one where that actually did something. Yeah. Okay, so let's try the Houndsgall, and I think we can probably just try this at Solomon's desk, although we might be short on the numbers, I'm not sure. So I think we should be okay with the Houndsgall. I was really hoping that one would work. Now this one we're one short on, and I don't think there's such a thing as a scale paper, so I'm going to have to reconsider. You know what? Yeah, I've got something that can work. Granite slab. Well, or serpentinite. Doesn't really matter. Okay, Frozen Feathers, health, earthquake name, and then now we can put our liquids in, so... Peribiot. Okay. I'm curious if a leaf counts as fuel. I can see that going both ways. Looks like a leaf is a leaf, so that's going to be another thing I need to think about. Although I guess if I had a leaf that gives me Perenculate. So speaking of Perenculate, let's try that. No! Okay, I'm going to cry uncle on that one, and let's see if we can make something happen with the sky instead. And looks like I've actually tried quite a bit here already. So this doesn't work because I can't add the lantern for the sky. But I can add it at the kitchen. No, I can't. Maybe the jail? Oh, let's try. Okay, so Wind and Waiting does the trick. Wait, but how do I add the essential periost? Because kitchen you can't just throw remains in the yeah, that doesn't work. Okay. Good lord. Ichor Auroral is another possibility here as well. So let's go to the solar altar instead. Just cooking up some bones in the kitchen. Yeah. What else do you do for Sunday lunch? Okay, so let's try Frost, Furs and Feathers. Didymos. Okay, so one of the first ones I want to try is Ichor Auroral. Okay. Sorry, that's Ichor Vitreous. Auroral, nope. Hang on a second. It would help if I... It would help if I actually had the 15 that was required. This is one of the reasons why I skip over stuff the later the stream gets. Because imagine if I actually put false for this and how long I would be tearing my hair out trying to make this work. Okay, now we'll try the Ichor Auroral. Okay. Xanthotic Essence, maybe. Nope. I don't see why Iotic would work, but... Yeah, so we're well and truly at the last option, which is the Essential Periost. And I feel like I used to have a way of making this work. It's how we discovered it for Aronoscopy, but clearly it wasn't at this altar. I should double check. So this is just a remain, so it absolutely has to be something that takes remains. I don't think any of the solar altars do. I'm happy the cage doesn't take remains. Huh, I guess it's the Gullscry workbench. Well, let's give it a shot. Didymos, this won't let me add an element of the soul. This actually could... No, the Mazarine Fife will cover me. I really thought that might have done the trick. Alright. Then yeah, it would seem to me... the remaining... Oh, sorry. Do you think it's looking for a very specific item or just a certain category? Definitely for... so because I'm looking for a keeper level recipe, it's definitely looking for a specific item. So the way that I've been working through this is the end of a particular strategy that I've been applying to the skills that I don't have a final ingredient for. So for instance, we'll use Tridesma Hira as an example for this. I'll use the Nocturnary just because that has Grail and Moon. Right, so in this case we've got... So the Confounding Parable, as long as you get the... I believe that's called a Scholar level? Prentice level, sorry. Prentice, Scholar, and Keeper. So the Prentice level, straightforward, right? Do you want a Confounding Parable? Do you want a Beguiling Melody? Just give them 5 of the... one of the base levels. Now the thing is that none of these things are guaranteed, right? You can have something that has Grail and Moon, but it might be that there is some other thing. So one observation I might make, right, the Tridesma Hira, the Rites of the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot, which includes certain mysteries of the dwellers in the wood behind the world. Perhaps what you would want to do is work out a mapping between Grail, Moon, and so you've got the the Triple Knot, the 3 hours that would be associated with it. So this is pretty obviously the Grail. And then I'd sort of look, okay, well, how do I maybe fit Moon in with one of these? And like, well, I guess this kind of is the Moon as well, right? But your thing is like, is there a way that I could maybe make a connection between Grail and Moon, and then whatever the missing one is, maybe that's how I wind up being able to, maybe that's how I wind up sort of cracking open the puzzle. There's a lot of different ways that you can think about it, but the way that the Keeper recipes work is that when you do a scholar level recipe, it's looking, as you say, for the category. So in the case of the Stimfling and the Pale Mommet, as long as an egg is present or a fabric is present, you'll be good. So it doesn't matter if it's human hair still counts as fabric. And in fact, if there was something that you could do to get the, thing, right? So there is, so far as I can tell, there's no workstation that accepts an egg. There are workstations that will accept the other categories or aspects that are associated with eggs, more traditional eggs. So you can put those in kitchen range, let's say. But the Tranial Tchotchke, in theory, you could use to make a Stimfling if you could somehow find a workbench that would accept the thing, because that is the only other thing that the Cranial Tchotchke is. It is an egg and it is a thing. When an egg is not dead, something may emerge. When an egg is dead, something may be placed within. There's a Blake, 7th Librarian of Hush House. Anyways. So yeah, what is specifically looking for here under the craftable list? So you can, when you do the Keeper level recipe, when you add Ruby Wise Ruin, you get the Sacrament Calcite. When you add Asmiel, you get the Black Sapphire Wash. And I believe we have tried all of the different moon items that we could potentially bring in here. So one of the possibilities are, that it's a second Grail or Moth, one of the ones that I haven't tried yet, or it could be that this is a totally different category that I'm looking for. And so basically what I did was, the original list was, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 different skills that had some kind of gap. We've worked that down now. It's still a long list, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? So if we managed to get those last three, it would have been, 10, but 13 skills where basically there's some kind of a problem like this. So I've constrained the problem down to a bit more of a manageable list. And what I'm going to be trying in the subsequent episode, so obviously if Numa comes, we'll commit our history and we'll finish. But what I'm specifically looking to do with these is I should have a good list now of all of the different ingredients required to produce the Keeper level recipes, right? So if I want to make an Invincible Audacity, I know I have to have a winning move. If I want to make a Chimeric Larva, I need an egg. If I want to make a Perilous Imago, I need a Chimeric Larva. Those sorts of things. So what I can do is I can reduce the problem down to saying, can I find what the mystery aspect is? And for that, sometimes you read a book, sometimes you consult your notes. But essentially it's constrained it. So now that it's 13 skills, and it's going to be 13 skills for which I should have all of my other skills giving me evidence for, what the required inputs should be. And then another thing that I might try doing is just double checking, essentially looking for those Keeper level recipes, actually taking the time to verify, yes, this thing does not work, because there have been a couple of times where I've made some foolish entries, and so it would be nice to sort of clear out the fuzz. But assuming I complete that and we're not yet at Numa, at that point I would probably consider petitioning the hours to bring about Numa. But like I said, one of the reasons why I like taking the time to do this is that it does give me an opportunity to mess around with some of the other it does give me a chance to mess around with some of the other things, like the books coming in. Like being able to, make an effort to try and get somebody who knows Kernwek Henneveck to teach me that language. So because there are things that you can do in Hush House, and there are some specific things I want to do before I wrap up this game that I haven't done yet, just specifically so I can have some more things to do. But basically, once the skills are done, that's a point where I can say I'm not necessarily going to productively spend my time at Hush House. I'm really just going to be fast forwarding and waiting for Numa. And at that point, I figure maybe instead of just doing the fast forward, we actually do take the action to get to Numa. But all of that will be left for Friday. As always, thank you everybody for hanging out. I tried to come up with a slightly better balance between playing the game and and chatting, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm tired and I get chattier when I get tired. But as always, I really do appreciate you hanging out and having a chance to share the game with you. So I'm gonna take a quick second here and see if anybody's doing Book of Hours. And I know I hosted them recently, but Prosciutto Fist is playing Baldur's Gate 3. So, still doing Cultist, but this seems so cool. Oswin, now, I am very sorry that I'm really focused on my endgame here, because I feel like you are deserving of a little bit of a better introduction. I should let you know the beginning of this stream is on YouTube, and I do actually have a regular Book of Hours stream. If you like Cultist Simulator, this is absolutely a game worth checking out. And obviously you don't have to, I'm going to talk up my own stuff, obviously, but I feel that there's enough Book of Hours stuff out there. I will be playing this game on Friday if you want to ask some questions and have a little more interaction in terms of how it works. And like I said, this particular game you can see play from the start. I also have other videos where I played the game from the start, so you can sort of see how you get started on things like that. Cultist Simulator is a really special game, but this one, I was originally kind of worried, what if it's not as good as Cultist Simulator? Because I had so much invested in it, right? And then it came out, and I'm like, how could I have been so foolish? This is everything I wanted it to be. And it's great. And it's got beautiful music and things like that. But anyways, I appreciate all of you hanging out, and for those of you who did come a little bit later in the broadcast, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try and get my sleep under control once things settle down with the new job. But for now, please enjoy Prosciutto Fist and her adventures in Baldur's Gate 3. I'll see at least some of you on Friday. Take care.